when you come up to the podium. So, as I said, tonight the Rochester Board of Education will present the I Believe Awards to students at Henry Hudson, School number 28, and to students who have been named the All Greater Rochester 2017-18 Winter Athletes. The I Believe Award is given in recognition to students' outstanding efforts and achievements. I would like to ask Commissioner Shepard to go to the podium and introduce the Henry Hudson School 28 National Recycling Champions.
Hi, hello everybody.
Hello.
So I'm going to ask that all of the students and the staff from school number 28 come up and stand with me, please. So I want everybody to get the faces because in April, the green team at Henry Hudson, school number 28, was declared the winner of the National Keep America Beautiful Recycle Bowl competition. So they did an awesome job. Now the team recycled a total of 2,886 pounds of paper, 49 pounds of plastic, glass, or tin containers, 1,968 pounds of cardboard, and 450 pounds of milk cartons between October 16th and November 16th of last year. So that was awesome. And the members of the green team include approximately 40 students in the 4th to 6th grade, and some of them are represented here, and 8 teachers who supported the team's efforts. The Henry Hudson School number 28 has participated in the National Recycle Bowl competition since 2007. So we would like to present this reward to the school, and it's an I Believe Award. It says Certificate of Recognition awarded to Henry Hudson School number 28, presented by the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools in recognition of being awarded Keep America Beautiful Recycle Bowl. It's given on the 24th day of May 2018. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. All right, so next we are going to move into our Student Athlete Awards for the All Greater Rochester 2017-2018 Winter Athletes. And if you don't really know what AGR stands for, every year countywide, and I think some of the schools that might be outside of the county, they give awards to the top athletes in high school. So we have 3 students from the Rochester City School District that actually made the All Greater Rochester recognition. So we are going to recognize them tonight. So can I have Rondell Watson come up and join me? Rondell and his family. Yep. So Rondell Watson is a basketball all-star from Leadership Academy for Young Men. Rondell scored 10 three-point shots in a game against Wilson High School this year. This is the third highest scoring basketball performance in New York State history. Make sure that we recognize Rondell for all of his hard work and for representing the Rochester City School District in his athletics and also in his scholars. So we are going to give him a certificate, and they're also going to get a plaque as well. So I wanted to make sure that we also recognize the family, because I know you all have a lot to do in regards to supporting him. So here you go, Rondell. Congratulations. Oh. Diasia Fair here yet? All right. So can I have Mr. Jaquil Baxter and his family come on up? Come on up, Coach Pat. Sorry, we keep, I don't know if I should use the word harassing, but we keep having Jaquil come back because he keeps doing great things and extraordinary things in track. So this is his second award being up here. So Jaquil, in track and field, he is a star at Edison Career and Technical High School. Jaquil set 3 school records and 1 Section 5 record this season. He also won a state championship with a time of 1:20.5 in the 600-meter race. So we wanted to make sure that we recognize you again for being recognized for all of the stuff that you do in track. And this is his coach and mom, and is he a little sister? All right, and so we wanted to make sure that we recognize you all as well for all of the support that you give to Jaquil, because he keeps on winning, and we keep on getting recognized for it, so I'm with it. So I wanted to present this to you, so thank you so much, Jaquil. All righty. Did Diasia come in yet? Okay. All right, so I'm just going to read off Diasia Fair. She also was named to the All Greater Rochester, and she is a women's basketball champion at Edison Career Tech High School. And Diasia scored a personal best of 39 points in a game against Wilson High School this season. So we also wanted to recognize her for all of her achievements, and we'll make sure that she gets her certificate. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Shepard, for that. The official board meeting starts at 6:30, which is another 10 minutes away. We don't want to jump the gun because it is video coverage on RCTV. So if y'all want to take a stretch, I think there are cookies and water still in the back. Help yourself. And we'll start up again in 10 minutes. Thank you. Our president is speaking at School 58 and will be with us presently. In the meantime, we do have a quorum. I have asked that the School 28 recycling team, who was awarded or recognized for the I Believe Award earlier this evening, stay and give us the Pledge of Allegiance, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And they requested that we do the pledge in both English and in Spanish. So when you rise to your feet, please don't sit down right away. Give us the Spanish speakers time to lead us in Spanish as well. Okay, School 28 folks, Ms. Ladd. If you would like to introduce your students to the audience, most of the folks here weren't here when they were recognized.
Good evening. I would like to recognize my Green Team staff, Ms. Lugo and Ms. Leonie Tobar, and my students, Genesis, Ninoshka, and Angel. Angel. So they'll come over here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Thank you so much. As I said, they were recognized a few minutes ago, and I asked if they wouldn't be willing to stay. I know they won't want to sit through the entire board meeting, but I do know that we have a presentation from Teen Empowerment, which they might find interesting. So the next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. We have at the dais the minutes for March 8th, April 12th, April special meeting, April 24th special meeting, April 26th, and May 8th special meeting. I have a motion. I have a second from a motion from Commissioner Elliott, a second from Commissioner Funchess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At this time, I recognize our board president and return the gavel to him.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Elliott. I apologize for being late, but I had the opportunity to give some remarks at World of Inquiry's Honor Society induction. So that was an opportunity that I just could not pass up. You've got some wonderful colleagues and students over there. So I was encouraged to have that opportunity, and it was a standing room only crowd, so that was good to see. Again, thanks, Vice President Powell. Did we approve the minutes? I think you just did that. And now we have to turn the floor over to our citizens, as we do at this point in our meetings. And we have a list of, one list of speakers, is that right, Madam Clerk?
We have 2 lists of speakers.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll start with student and parent and community members then. Nicolette Burney. Is Ms. Burney here? All right. Now, Ms. Callahan, Mary Callahan, if you could stand to her left, so that way when, go ahead, come on up, Ms. Burney. You can go to that microphone. That is, when Ms. Burney is complete, Ms. Callahan, you can step right in there. Thank you. That's the one I'm reading from. Student, parent. Go ahead, Ms. Burney.
Okay. Good evening, parents of Rochester City School District and committee.
Ms. Burney,
I am the
Ms.
proud-
Burney, can you bring the microphone a little
Absolutely.
higher? Thank you.
I am the proud parent of Truth Bernie. She attends SOTA, and she is in the 12th grade. She has a GPA of a 3.9, okay? Phenomenal student, phenomenal student. We have found, okay, let's start with the good first. Always good to start with the good. So I want to state that her teachers at SOTA that she has are phenomenal. You couldn't get any better. Mrs. Ng, Mrs. Perez, Mrs. Langston, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. Ayers, and Notermeyer, which is her jazz teacher, and Tally Sariani, which is her counselor, and Pamela Rutland, which is downstairs, you guys. She is phenomenal. She's been very helpful and very instrumental in trying to help us. Our issues aren't big. I know you guys have some real big issues here. Our issues aren't big. My daughter just needs some assistance in a couple different things. I have come down here for like 3 weeks. I have called a trillion times. I have tried to speak with multiple people, being the superintendent, being Keisha Morgan. I have never been able to reach these people. I did get the opportunity to see the superintendent because I came to an IEP meeting. So I bumped into her. So I had an opportunity to meet her. But in the process, my daughter's having buses. We fall up under the McKinney-Vento program. If you're not familiar with what McKinney-Vento is, it's the homeless program for New York State. Something to look into if you have a homeless issue, okay? There are certain rules that are supposed to be applied in that program, and we have gone to other districts. And coming to this district, we were asking for basic stuff to make sure my daughter was okay. The latest conversation that we had was yesterday. My daughter needed busing, and there's a 3-day law that they have 3 days to get busing in order. Well, going to Brighton, Webster, Canandaigua, anybody else would have said, come in tomorrow, let's get this taken care of so your daughter's in school. The Rochester City School District said, well, in 3 days, we'll let you know. Well, any parent knows we have 2 weeks of school left, right? And then exams. So, exactly. So with that being said, she needs to be in school. She needs to be in school. So that concerns me. And at the end of the day, when I used to watch, and I was not a part of this district, I was a part of a bunch of other districts, and watching the news, it broke my heart to sit and watch what was going on, because these are students. I used to say, well, maybe the parents aren't doing what they need to do. I come to every meeting. I come to every, everything that they have that's going on for my child, I am there. It is not encouraged through the Rochester City School District. So when you don't do that, and then you accuse parents of not doing their job, you need to look in the mirror. You need to look in the mirror. So I am asking, because they told me I only had 3 minutes, I am asking anyone in this audience that wants to talk to me and help me and my family, and I will help yours if I know how to do it. Believe me, I will come help you. Please, by all means, come talk to us, because I'm friendly. I talk to anybody. If you're willing to put the time in to help us, I'm willing to come to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Mary Callahan will be followed by Truth Bernie. Truth Bernie, are you here? Just stand to the left of Ms. Callahan. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a member of Metro Justice Education Committee and the Alliance for Quality Education. I'm also a teacher in Greece, and I'm also a parent. So my son attends Early Childhood School 57 and participates in both the before and after school Healthy Kids program. And I believe there are other parents here whose children also participate in that program. If anybody wants to stand in support of this, that would be great. And there are many people who've been speaking out. It has recently come to my attention that this program will be cut next year. I am emphatically urging you to reconsider this harmful decision. This program is amazing. The women and men who run it are excellent teachers and caretakers who provide the kids a space to complete homework, play all kinds of sports and other physical activities in the gym, take them outside on the playground, do art projects with them, play games, build and create with all kinds of manipulatives. You name it, they do it. The kids get to play and socialize with each other, explore their creative interests, and have adults who enjoy interacting with them. Additionally, it is affordable and extremely helpful for working parents who need wraparound childcare. I was going to have to pay a ridiculous amount to the YMCA just to drop my son off and have him get directly on a bus in the morning. With Healthy Kids, he's already at his school, where I get to set foot every day he is there. I see his principal, his teachers, and other staff who communicate with me regularly. Please do not cut this program. This is the kind of thing you should be replicating, not eliminating. We are all talking about the importance of restorative practices. This is restorative. It's good for the kids socially, emotionally, physically, academically, and creatively. It makes parents feel good about the school and eliminates an excessive amount of stress that is detrimental to parents and students alike. While RCSD is planning on cutting this program, it continues to expand in the entire district of Batavia and 38 public schools around New York City. Our parent liaison worked tirelessly to get this program for us. The principals all support it. Why would you cut something that is working so well for people and that provides so much enrichment for the kids? Please reconsider this and do it soon so people can know this program is secure for next year. We need the board to stand up for the parents and students of this community and keep this program in place. You have power and decision rights to help the families in the district. Please. While I'm here, I would also like to express my support for the students of Teen Empowerment who are asking for the implementation of Pan-African Studies, diversity in staff, for programs that make teaching attractive for RCSD students, and they will say it much better than I can. Students taking this kind of initiative is one of the most inspiring things to see, and what they are asking for should already be a given. They absolutely deserve to have their requests fulfilled. Please don't let them down. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Truth. I'm sorry, are you on the list, sir?
No, sir.
Yeah, no, we have people sign up. Thank you very much, though. The next person is Truth Burney. She will be followed by Alania Gaitis. I mispronounced it. I know I did. Are you here, ma'am? Yeah. I'm sure you'll correct the spelling. If you wouldn't mind standing to the left of Ms. Burney, that would be helpful. Thank you. Ms. Burney?
Yes. My name is Truth Burney. I'm a senior at School of the Arts. I started mid this year as a transfer student from a different high school. And one of the first things I came in contact when it came to financial troubles is that I was told if I didn't make the deadline, I wouldn't be able to walk the stage, just because, of course, I wouldn't have my cap and gown. At the time, I couldn't afford to get a cap and gown. So we had to search out to see how we could make that money work. But since that didn't work, we had to work through the school. The school basically said that they didn't really know any other way but getting it in on time. That was already a problem since we missed the deadline. So it was assumed that I couldn't walk the stage. I could graduate, but not really with the rest of my class exactly. So my mom called the school and all the higher-ups, and they said that that makes no sense. They should be paying for it. And so we talked to the principal, Mrs. Aspenleiter, and she said, of course, that she would pay for it, and it would be expected of the school under our circumstance. So the same thing kind of came up with senior trip. They said that they would pay for it because they went through the school and higher up, and they found money, but they didn't tell us that they found money. I feel a lot of things that happen in the Rochester City School District is broken connections, from higher up, lower down. I don't care if it's on the same level. I really believe that it would help my education and help me get help from my teachers that have time and busing if everyone would communicate. However, even once I leave, I believe that it would be good for your community to help your own students just to communicate. I leave in 2 weeks, and then, of course, finals. But then after graduation, I'm gone. But these communication issues still stay. That's all I really wanted to address.
Thank you, Ms. Burney.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's Aliana Judiz.
Aliana, thank you.
I'm a freshman at School of the Arts, and I'm here to address the ongoing situation about more ethnic teachers. The definition of ethnic is relating to a population subgroup with a common national or cultural tradition. Quite frankly, this relation is something we lack in our RCSD schools. RCSD schools are made up of 75% white teachers and 25% culturally diverse teachers. With this in mind, The percentages of culture in students are 3% Asian, 28% Latino, 10% white, and 57% black, while the other 2% is classified as other. With more culturally diverse students and a small percentage of culturally diverse teachers, the system is severely at fault. Humans run by instinct more than they do anything else. Although we don't like to admit, when we see someone that looks like us, we automatically feel a sense of reassurance. It's not the best thing, but that's just how it is. So when ethnic students work with ethnic staff or someone who can provide support and understanding, there is an easier start to building a relationship. There's a sense of comfortability. Now, does this mean culturally diverse students can't get along or work with primarily Caucasian teachers? Not at all. I have a few Caucasian teachers myself whom I am close with and can talk to, but that is because they are educated about my race and aren't afraid to speak on the idea of race amongst other things. So when I'm having problems and need to talk to somebody, I really don't have a lot of choice. My counselor, who I have been assigned to, can't really understand my problems and can't relate in the most efficient way possible. The problem that you are choosing to ignore is that not all of these teachers are educated on anything about ethnicity and background and culture and the advantages and disadvantages and so much more. They are not being given the proper training and they are not training independently. Some of them, not all of them, but some and most come in with an idea or an assumption or a vision of what school and ethnic kids are going to be like, and it's not working. These things need to be changed. They desperately need to be changed. All we ask as a student body is for a more supporting staff, preferably a staff that could relate to us culturally, but if not, at least a staff that is educated on the RCSD, the city, and students' cultural backgrounds. Thank you for your time, and please remember everything I have said, and please take it into account.
Thank you. Jack Conde. Jacques Conde. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. Jacques. And he will be followed by Alexis Clark. Alexis Clark, are you here? No? All right, Alexis, if you could stand to his left, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacques. I just want to paint a picture for you guys so you guys can understand what kids that have been retained or are going to be retained go through on a daily basis in RCSD. Welcome to Common Core, where if you don't pass this test, you will feel dumber than the rest. How do you feel now? Stupid, clueless, anxious? Now take that feeling and multiply it by 1,000. That feeling is being left behind That feeling of being left behind is common for thousands of children in RCSD who have been left behind. I want to eliminate this feeling. At home, I was taught that everyone was different. We all had a different purpose, different likes and dislikes. And I just want to understand why that completely changes when I walk into school. To keep it honest, I believe that unless you live, eat, and breathe Common Core, you have a smaller chance of making it out of school and following your dreams. Common Core is nothing more than creating an unequal escape for certain children. If I go to school and I'm clueless, I shouldn't be punished by taking a year away from my life to reteach things I will never use outside of a school setting anyways. How will I learn to file taxes or take care of myself without my parents' guidance? When we ask for freedom in school, that does not mean to give us an equation and force us to figure it out on our own. We should have the right to choose the classes we believe will help us in our future and our path. If the future is in my hands, why haven't I had the tiniest influence on it?
Alexis Clark will be followed by Beautiful Ford. Beautiful Ford. Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, take your time.
In my school. Am I not? Okay. I walk through metal detectors 8:05 a.m. I am already feeling like a prisoner in my own school. I should feel safe. We all should. But how can we just ignore the drug dealers selling weed in our halls and the freshman girls smoking in our stalls? Does anyone even want to be there at all? There was a time when I hated school. Maybe I still do. I haven't been in school in days. They were my t-shirt and bed days. They were my high depression, meet anxiety days, and I just don't care about my grades. My mother's getting sicker, but I'm dealing with my own stress. Walking through these hallways, do I feel alone? Yes. We need better counseling. But how can I tell someone it took me 2 hours just to write a sentence and I sit by myself because no one makes me feel welcome? I speak with the wisdom that only comes from experience. This is my truth. So do you really need further proof? And when I look around and see, I know it's not just me. Some of my teachers feel it too. How can you possibly teach courses without the proper resources? How can we ever be taught to see if blind lead the blind? We never get taught about our past, except for the fact that my people always come in last. When all I know are lies, how do I see the truth? And with no guidance, how can we expect the future to be led by our youth? How about being greeted each morning with warm smiles and hugs? We don't need more police, we need more love. How about giving my teachers the training and support they need so that they can spread knowledge and they can truly lead? And once they learn how to connect, we can spread positivity and all feel respect. Imagine a safe zone, imagine a help zone in a safe place where you can take time to process the issues we face, embrace our struggles, and motivate each other so that no one's left out or feels out of place. I want to learn about the people, the part that we always bolt to pass, the kings and queens with melanin that linked me to my past, the pride I feel to fully unveil the truth about my history, open up Pandora's box and uncover this mystery. My unhappiness didn't come from hate or some boy. It's from going to school that lacks the things that I enjoy. Some days I want to run fast because that is my dream. But wait, my school doesn't even have a girls' track team. We need change in city schools that allows our kids to thrive. Give us tools and we need to prosper so we can continue to rise. This current system is corrupt and we begin to normalize. So we stand in unison because it's your future as well as mine.
Beautiful Ford will be followed by Xavier Campbell. Xavier Campbell, if you could stand to Ms. Ford's left. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beautiful Ford. I go to Wilson Magna High School, and I'm youth organizer at Teen Empowerment. Usually I'm a poet, but I want to try to catch the drift, so hear this. Please stop making our black boys feel like athletics is the only way out, because just like agriculture, you reap what you sow. And y'all are making our black boys feel like streets is the only thing they'll ever know. Please stop the school to prison pipeline. I go to a school where the students are predominantly black and the teachers are predominantly white. That's not right. None of my schools have ever had the proper resources, but that ain't nothing new to me. And please stop trying to limit my education to a community college because y'all ain't fooling me. No teachers from my community, so they refuse to see the potential in me. Answer me this. Why have a building full of staff with master's degrees and none of them can relate to me? Our schools are limited to 4 walls. You can easily go to jail for fighting in the halls. No money for textbooks, but money for scanners. No money for decent food to eat, but there's police in our schools. No money for more student counselors, but there's security guards all around us. Please do not be blinded by the fact that something drastically needs to change. And it might sound blunt, but I've never been one to run from a fight. Scratch that, this isn't a fight, it's an ongoing war. Our schools are pitiful excuses for learning environments, and we need more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Xavier Campbell will be followed by Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson. Sorry about that.
There's so many.
Sorry about that, Eric.
There's so many extracurricular classes that we have that has nothing to do with what we are going to deal with in the real world. So many unnecessary things taught to us that we'll never use in our everyday lives. We have no classes teaching us about bills, mortgages, how to build credit, driver's ed, or things of that nature. Or even classes that engage the students to feel inspired, to want to do something like become a teacher or a counselor, which is the kind of inspiration that we need in our schools. Most students can't wait to go home to enjoy their lives because school doesn't engage them the way that it should be. If you would ask me, many students learned last year, what they learned last year from their school, they wouldn't remember because they pay attention to answer questions on the test, not for real life situations they will come across. So when it's time to step out on our own and reality hits us, we're lost and starting off in a horrible situation. It's a bunch of teens that still don't know how to properly fill out a job application because there was no help or support systems in our school to help us teach us about the actual challenge. Instead of solving a 30-minute problem to find out there's no solution, we should be figuring out a way to solve our school's problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Wilson will be followed by Kiara Johnson.
Hi, my name is Eric Wilson. I'm a recent graduate from World of Inquiry. I would like to start off by acknowledging members of the board for the work they are doing with the community, such as restorative practices, the relationship model through Victorious Minds Academy, and help zones, which in the long run is one of the first of many steps in improving relationships in our schools between the teachers and students. Now I have another way we can go further along the path that we are starting on now, such as letting students participate in the hiring process of teachers in our schools. I feel that students being able to have a say in the qualities they need and want in a teacher will go a long way in building trust and investment. This could be a very rich experience with the staff and students because now that the students are having a say, even though they won't have the final word, them being able to participate is going to help the students by establishing trust and building together with the teachers. People sometimes resist the idea of students hiring or evaluating teachers, but for an example, at my own job, Teen Empowerment, all of this adult staff are hired with the involvement of the youth. And on top of that, adults and youth give constructive feedback, both criticism and praise, every Monday. There are guidelines that is done to be honest and in a caring way with the goal of making the group and our work stronger. This ongoing feedback can happen through restorative circles, and we can find ways to include this process in evaluating teachers once they have already been hired. When done in the context of strong relationships and a clear sense of purpose, students are involved in this way are going to feel more vested in and learning and more valued. I guarantee if done right, it will keep us moving towards strong relationships that we are building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Kiara Johnson. Kiara Johnson will be followed by Julio Vicente.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Kiara Johnson. I'm a youth organizer at Teen Empowerment, and I'm a junior at School of the Arts. Thank you. We are here today to remind you that we still have major flaws in our city schools. Monroe County has had studies done to show that it is still one of the most segregated places to be so small, yet we still tend to ignore it. Our city schools have high populations of black students in every school, yet we don't see enough black teachers. But we need black teachers and counselors too, because it's not just having another typical black teacher. This is having a role model who looks like us and comes from our same backgrounds. We can see ourselves in leadership roles. They'll care for us in a way that is more familiar to us and make sure that we understand our own black potential. And they'll be more likely to teach us about our own black culture. And this is not saying that every black teacher is going to be the answer, because we all understand that your kinfolk not always your skinfolk. But we've been saying for such a long time that we need more teachers who look like us. But in our current reality, we're dealing with majority and if not all white teachers. But we need them to work to understand us, but to also understand racism and how it impacts their teaching. They need to understand that the way that they practice their own racism is how it will affect us in our schools. But they also need to understand that as them being our teachers, it is in truth their job to educate our students about racism and how they have white privilege. And this does include understanding bias. And not too many of us students want to become teachers anymore, but these are some simple changes that we can use to help fix this problem. We need more colleges to come into our school and promote the same exact way that we have police, fire department, and armies. We need a better school climate, not just for our staff, but also for our teachers and our parents. We need more programs like TLI at East High School that allow students to be in leadership roles if they would like to become teachers. But the truth is you will never see this unless you're in East High School. We need more scholarships for students of color who want to become teachers or counselors, because if we don't, who will? We need more Pan-African studies because, unfortunately, America is forgetting that African American history is American history. And we need our staff in our schools to represent its student body. More teaching that is relevant to our lives and careers that we would like, and students should play a huge role in evaluating and choosing teachers and staff who will work with us. Now, you can give us more black teachers all day, but with the 10-year in place, there are budget cuts that will happen and black teachers will be put out of place in 1 or 2 years because they don't have that experience. So that's one more thing that we need to finish. But the bottom line here is we won't keep putting up with being put last, nor will we allow our adults in charge of helping us slack off. How long will we have to rally and tell adults that we need change until it actually happens? We have to start now. And our black excellence is starting to be recognized, so it's time that you guys invest into us and work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker after Mr. Vicente will be Mr. Birkin, Peter Birkin.
I am here to apologize to some members of the school board council. May I explain what led to confusion, starting with statements made in an interview by Carlos Garcia the afternoon following the Trevian Road tragedy. Compounded later, learned that a group focused on renaming the building and formerly resistant board members seemingly became motivated to remove the present name. Additionally, I knew an invigorated long-term RCSD administrative effort to change the name to Douglas would have been untrue. Also, the touted mention of a campaign, publicity, or movement towards changing the name of 12 School would not have escaped my attention. Claiming RCSD claiming that the change was in public consciousness was and is untrue. Lastly, it was unfathomable that principled, honored, and much loved Dr. David Anderson's integrity would have supported a name change designed to obscure, escape, or confuse issues in the Roe case. We recognize those obvious suspicious activities and statements regarding the name change. I've since learned that there has been a strongly led past board majority that resisted the name change to Douglas over the past 5+ years that Dr. Anderson and some board members, community, had been actively pursuing, actually longer than that. Resistant board leadership became uncharacteristically cooperative after the Roe incident, then enjoining and expediting scheduled to prominence after the 5-year suspended animation within prior district attention or action. We are also aware of the effort to hijack and take credit of the Douglas commemorative by those wanting the present name off and the sets of petitions. We know that the evening Mr. Rowe was reported missing, city administration and RPD responded diligently. Van White has said that the superintendent carries out directives from the board. Thusly, superintendent would not have superseded that limitation. That leaves White, Urbanski, and Garcia waiting for authorization, and from whom? It's been long believed that a pre-installed hidden shadow government operates in background Rochester, New York, with allegiance contrary to the present chosen administration. The back offices, mainly school district, police, fire, 911 services were filled from 20 to 30 years prior Duffy installation. I personally believe that White waited for that shadow government approval for Roe action. Oddly, the one common factor in all of this seems to be the name Duffy. I am in full agreement, admiration, and gratitude to Dr. Anderson's school board members' past efforts and newly appointed present board members that have valiantly and dauntlessly stepped forward, hoping to deliver the occasion of renaming 12 School in honor of Frederick Douglass. I would like to applaud and offer my esteemed appreciation with apology to those that have labored in honor to honor the Douglas life and legacy that were neglected mention for their commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vicente. Thank you. Peter Birkin will be followed by Jeffrey Wolf.
Good
Jerry
evening,
Wolf,
everyone.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
My name is Peter Birkin. I help and inspire people and bully-proof people to bring out their unique genius, which we have. Rochester City School District wants to bring out the masterpiece in every student of ours. What's going on with that? Politicians, which includes judges, superintendents throughout the country, administrators starting with superintendents across the country, administrators taking the lead from the superintendent, administrators downtown, administrators that act in our schools, teachers who come out of colleges and universities to train them to do what? The pipeline. Now, I got to go out and say that our teachers do the best they can with the practices they learn in colleges and universities. We are not talking about urban issues. We are not talking about different cultures. It's a fact. So it is our parents, our first teachers at home. We love our parents. They're doing the best they can with what they learned from public schools themselves. Public schools for decades have failed our future parents, has failed them. The young people, the teenagers who have spoke tonight are outstanding. And thank you for taking the nerve and having the courage to present in front of the media, the Board of Education, the union, human resources that hire people who try to do the best they can with what they know. How much passion do we have in this district? I'm a certified life coach. 90% of life coaching is listening to our students, acknowledging and validating their feelings, and helping them reframe things that might not be going right for them at the moment. Knowing that every moment defines who you are. Schools should be built on respect and safety. Respect and safety. Respect oneself, others, and authority. Build these schools with that respect and safety. You'll find greatness. You'll find greatness. It is my belief, because we talked about belief tonight, we have a thing called GAL, gremlins, our inner critic that says we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not good looking enough. We got assumptions, assumptions meaning we assume this or that about people based on the color of their skin, their religion, or anything else that we try to separate people. Interpretations. I interpret this about somebody because they look different or they have a different belief system I do. It's all terrible. And then our limiting beliefs. It's called GAL. Gremlins, assumptions, interpretation, and limiting beliefs are holding us back. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Birkin. Jerry Wolf. Jerry Wolf will be followed by Jayla Jones.
I'm going to kind of turn around and address the board because this is nothing, no complaints today. I'm here, Willa Powell in the February board meeting brought up, I think it's resolution 615 regarding School of the Arts not charging for exchange students. And I wanted to explain to you, I've been involved, I work with Council on International Educational Exchange. I've been with them for 16 years now. I have personally hosted 11 students. They have a 12th one coming in August. They have attended both East High School and School of the Arts. In her statement in the February board meeting, she stated that that we should be, somebody should talk to the chief representing School of the Arts, and that they should be charging tuition. She also stated that students that are sponsored by the U.S. State Department should not be charging anything to do with that, and that corporations or businesses that are professional that do this should be paying. I wanted to assure you that every student that I place in the city schools and all the county schools that I place students in are J1 students sponsored by the U.S. State Department. I am licensed by the U.S. State Department. I am trained by CIE like all the other local coordinators, and we are required to do everything that an F1 school would do. F1 schools, so you're educated, our F1 program is sponsored by the Department of Homeland Security. And if you wanted to, as a school board, charge tuition, you would have to be, I've got in the information I'm passing out to you, there's actual information there that you can read up on and how you can do that. The difference is if you were an F1 school, somebody in the school is responsible for that student if the kid gets sick, you're responsible to do it. The school is. The F1 students choose the school, and the school has to find the host family. The school has to support the student. They have to provide transportation for them if they stay after school. It's not the host family's problem. The host family, the family that they stay with, is paid anywhere from $400 to $900 a month, depending on the organization. And they pay tuition. 98% of the schools that charge tuition are private schools. Both Bishop Kearney and Aquinas and schools like that actually have websites in Chinese. Kearney now has a women's dorm for 20 girl students. Their schools are hurting with population of students, so they do this to try to bring in and balance their budget. They also charge more because they have to have somebody on staff that maintains that. So I wanted you to understand there's a difference between F1 and J1. All our students come from low to medium income families. My student that I hosted last year from Italy, 70% of her cost of coming here were paid by she had scholarships, she had supports from all different types of people. So I wanted you to understand that, and so that you know that there is a difference. If you were to charge tuition to an exchange student and not be licensed by either the Homeland Security, you would be in serious trouble. Okay, so I don't know what your resolution says, but you really cannot charge tuition to any exchange student unless you have been approved by the state, and it's a long process to do. If you have any questions at all, any one of you, my business card is attached there, so give me a call. I've been doing this for a long time, and I do it because I love these kids. They're amazing. You learn so much from them, and it's a great program. And you see kids. I mean, my exchange I just mentioned to her dad died on Christmas Day. She had almost 150 students and former faculty of SOTA contact her with cards and emails because that shows what just one student can do to open up a school. And they're all smart. The two kids that have been accepted at School of the Arts, Helena Castro has waived the tuition on it. The forms and the information on those students are in there just so you can see the quality of the students that we have. One's 3.9 and one's 4.0. And they have amazing English proficiency. So read up on it. If you have any questions, I'm here to just kind of educate you so that you understand how it works. That's why I came today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Jayla Jones.
Hi. My name is Jayla Jones. I'm going to be speaking on a couple different things. Tonight I'm here wearing a couple different hats. One, I want to start off saying I'm a parent of my son, Paris. He attends 57th School, which is a really great school. However, cutting funding for them for after school would tragically hurt a lot of parents. As everybody know, Rochester is very high in poverty, and cutting after school programs and funding and stuff like that it's only going to put us in more poverty. At the end of the day, these parents are out and they're working and they're doing what they need to do to support these kids with the very little that they have and the very little that they get. I was one of them parents. I am one of those parents. I had my son at a very young age, just a little background about me. And to finish high school, I needed those after-school programs. To do what I needed to do for my baby, I needed those after-school programs to make sure that I did what I had to do for him and for us to get where we need to be as of right now. I probably wouldn't have finished high school if it was not for half of those after-school programs and them being funded. As of right now, I work with the Rochester City School District. I'm a TA at number 8 school. And again, like I said, I'm here with teen empowerment too. Even in even working in the school, Rochester City School District say no child left behind. However, when these kids get frustrated and these teachers that are not their same color do not know how to deal with them when they get frustrated, they just shut them down. Okay, don't do that paper or don't add those numbers or whatever the case may be, and they let those kids go play on whatever they want to play on or do whatever they need to do. And at the end of the day, the education is not being put out there. These kids are moving on to next grades, not knowing how to add 3 + 2. You get what I'm saying? Like it's supposed to be no child left behind, but a lot of kids are left behind. And then not only that, it's us black teachers or us teachers that can relate to them. Even though I am just a TA, I can still relate to some of these kids. Yeah, you can get upset and you can put down your paper and not want to do it, but I'm gonna sit here with you until you get back focused or until you take your breather to make sure that you get these done. Because at the end of the day, basic math for these little ones is essential when they get older. And not only that, like I said, these teachers give up on them and they're moving up to the next grades, and these other teachers are getting them not understanding, okay, how is this kid in this grade and don't understand how to add 2 + 3? You get what I'm saying? And it's because nobody can relate to these kids and be patient with them and understand them. So I'm just speaking on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, you said a lot that I agreed with, but there's one thing I disagree with. Respectfully, you used the word, you're just a TA. You're more than that.
You're definitely right.
All right? All right? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
We appreciate what you do in the classroom. All right. That concludes our list of speakers. We're going to move on with our superintendent's report. Barbara?
Sean gets to go first.
I want to switch up a little bit.
Well, it might not be the right one.
Oh, so they're not ready?
Are we ready? I get to go first? Okay, that's good. We're all good. Dr. Nelms, I get to go first tonight. So I'm pleased to share with you tonight some exciting and inspiring things that have been happening over the last month. I'm going to be brief because I'm going to yield most of my time to Ruth Turner and some of her team to do some special student recognitions tonight. First, I want to congratulate all of the students who participated in the Transfer the Flag ceremony on Sunday. As you probably know, this is the district's longest standing tradition, dating back 129 years. The students join an honored group of flag bearers before them, and I have no doubt will continue the legacy that will make us proud. Thank you to our staff and the commissioners who attended that event. I'd also like to recognize, this is an exciting event, 13 high school seniors who were honored at the 2018 Monroe County Council of School Superintendents 23rd Annual Dr. Michael C. O'Laughlin Outstanding Senior Recognition Dinner a week ago. On Wednesday, both Dr. Nelms and I were able to join a wonderful group of students and families who were selected by their principals, representing each of our high schools alongside all of the high schools of Monroe County. These students serve to exemplify the best of our district's values and commitment to excellence, and I want to congratulate each and every one of them. I'm very pleased to report on the progress we've made to improve our community schools in the district. increasing and enhancing that initiative through the budget support this year. We're working very closely with Rock the Future and have held 2 community school stakeholder meetings in the past month. We're currently partnering with over 60 leading Rochester area institutions and agencies, and we'll be meeting again on August 3rd as we continue to build out our new community schools model and initiative. The last attendance blitz of the school year was on May 17th. We are thankful to everyone who's gone out knocking on doors in an effort to determine and remove barriers to ensure better attendance. Over 1,200 homes were visited as part of the blitz this year, and there'll be some more information provided next month on the Cold Can't Stop Us and Winter Attendance Challenge. And we know that our schools will be having celebrations and accomplishments in the next month, and we know that we'll see many of you there. In another really exciting event, I want to thank the Rochester Cycling Alliance School 23 students, staff, parents, as well as the Rochester Museum and Science Center, and of course the Rochester Police Department for coordinating the National Bike to School Day on Wednesday morning, May 9th. Great time was had by all. Again, thank so many of our staff, senior members, teachers, community partners, parents, and President White for getting on that bicycle and joining family. So it was a great event as we see new bike paths, pathways being built around our city. It's just a wonderful opportunity to have people out in the neighborhoods and seeing each other to bring a sense of community together with our schools. So appreciate their support. I want to introduce Ruth Turner. Where is Ruth? And while she's walking up to the podium, I want to recognize Ruth for the Pathway to Peace honor that she received yesterday. She is the recipient of the Spreading the Peace Award for leading efforts in support of students in restorative practice across the city of Rochester and the school district. Youth outreach and violence prevention are well-known Ruth Turner initiatives. She works very hard, very visibly, and we thank her and want to recognize and celebrate you as well. So thank you.
Bless you.
Now Ruth's going to talk about 2 really cool things that have happened in the past few weeks and are coming up. So Ruth, take it away.
Thank you very much. I won't be very long. I just wanted to share that our Rochester City School District has been awarded the Certificate of Excellence in recognition of our leadership in protecting students and our community through the Sandy Hook Promise. Numerous districts across the nation are part of the Sandy Hook Promise, which provides free of cost professional developments for teachers and parents and students around recognizing signs of suicide and homicidal ideation and to help prevent gun violence in our community. So we have been awarded that for that work.
Right.
And so that's that. But what I'm really excited to share is Dr. Wakili Moore, Principal of Leadership Academy for Young Men, myself, and a couple of the students, which you'll hear from on April 27th, had the pleasure of going to the My Brother's Keeper second annual convening in Albany for those individuals who participate in the President Obama's initiative that has been adopted by New York State. And we want to show you a quick video that will highlight and give more great details about that event that took place in April.
MBK stands for My Brother's Keeper. This is the second New York State Symposium where we bring together MBK participants from across New York State to share and talk about what they're learning, what they're doing, what they're accomplishing on behalf of boys and young men of color.
The My Brother's Keeper initiative in New York State's goal is to support students, particularly young men of color, who, without having a focus on the needs that they have, might fall through the cracks.
MBK is a program in place that is to enable these kids to realize their full potential and to strive to take full advantage of that.
How do we deal with this issue of access and creating opportunities? And how do we deal with the obstacles and turn them into an opportunity?
A positive impact MBK made in my life is opening up my eyes to helping my brothers who are in need of desperate help or just help in general. My goals have changed because it went from me trying to get A's and B's to helping my brothers get A's and B's.
We have to make sure that we are addressing the needs that they have and providing the opportunities that they need to be successful.
We're trying to create a movement. And so we're building momentum. Last year this time, there were only 5 MBK communities in New York State. We've grown from 5 to 21.
This is a result of all of us, including our legislature and our governor, supporting the work that needs to be done across New York for these students.
The Board of Regents fully embraces MBK. MBK is something not only in place for boys and young men of color, but for all of us. When they succeed, we all succeed.
Get involved, because MBK is something that's life-changing. It's a family, it's a community, it's great. I see myself at Brockport University studying to become a lawyer.
It's extremely fitting that we end with a quote from Martin Luther King that says, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." And I think many of our young people are taking the first step and they're building the staircase to success.
Hi, my name is Tim Frazier, and I'm an 11th grader at Leadership Academy for Young Men. On April 27th, I was inducted into the first class of My Brother's Keeper Fellow Program. This will afford me an opportunity to receive mentorship and coaching to help me reach my full potential.
What's up, y'all? My name is Jaquez Cochran. I'm an 11th grader. I'm an 11th grader at Leadership Academy for Young Men. And just like my brother Tim said, I was also inducted into the My Brother's Keeper initiative as a fellow. This mentoring program will help me increase my leadership skills and traits, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I tell you, we can all just go down.
I also look forward to the opportunities that this program brings, and I'd like to thank Ms. Ruth Turner for all the opportunities that she gave us in Albany.
Hi, my name is Joe Brown, and I am an 11th grader at Leadership Academy for Young Men. On April 27th, I was honored to attend the second annual MBK convene in Albany, New York. My Brother's Keeper funding has provided an opportunity for us to learn restorative practice mindsets and has helped to develop us into leaders in our school and community. I'm going to pass this on to my brother, Daquan.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Hello, my name is Daquan. I'm a senior at the Leadership Academy for Young Men. I, too, attended the MBK convention in Albany, New York, April 27th. I was selected to represent RCSD on the statewide student panel. I had the opportunity to meet Carlos Haste, who is a speaker of the New York State Assembly. Also, I got to be on a panel with Dr. Alfonso Watts, who was a good mentor and speaker and preacher. Tomorrow, over 70 Rock Restorative youth will be together learning to build community and school climate. Also, I would like to thank Ms. Ruth and the board for giving us the opportunity that were provided for us.
So we don't believe in speaking for our youth. They're more than capable to speak for themselves, right? And what do I always tell you guys? You're not special, right? You're not special. There's hundreds of brothers, amen, doing the work that you guys are doing. We're very proud of you. We also want to highlight, in case you missed it, this was the first inaugural MBK Fellows, and 2 of our students are part of that statewide program who will be participating in their 11th grade, going on to 12th grade, and helping them transition to college. So let's just put our hands together and recognize them for all of their hard work.
Ruth, could we take a picture with these history makers? Come on.
time I got to tell a principal what to do. Everybody look. 1, 2, 3.
You took 5 pictures this time, you took 1. Congratulations. Oh yeah, where did I leave that? Wow. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know where I left it. I must have dropped. Okay. You all set, Barbara, or you got other parts? Okay. Dr. Nelms? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Sean, I'm sorry.
Let me just first say, particularly since I'm the liaison to Young Men's Leadership Academy, let me just personally congratulate you men. Let me just also say that to whom much is given, much is required, and that each one teach one. And also, particularly in this time of this era of Donald Trump and what we've seen just happen in the NFL, make sure you're protecting yourselves. Make sure that you're protecting your community. I spoke at a graduation there last year. You are the most powerful men on the earth. And if you weren't that powerful, you wouldn't have the incarceration rate that you have. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It is because you're the most powerful. I want you to remember that. I want you to tell your peers that you are the most powerful. I also want to make sure you are learning about who you are as men and of African descent. That's going to be crucial if you're going to live successfully in these United States of America. Racism is raising its head like never before, and you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself. There's lynchings going on, there's killings. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Make sure you're learning who you are. Make sure you're taking care of community. And again, I applaud you and continue to be on this path of excellence and take that back to your community. And then secondly, I just wanted to know about the attendance bliss. How successful are we? What percentage of increase have we seen? Because we've been doing these blitz for a few years now. Have we seen a correlation, a positive correlation? And I would hope a great increase of attendance if we're doing these attendance blitz, Madam Superintendent.
So Dr. Owens is not here. Dr. Owens is the one that monitors the attendance. So we are seeing some nice increases in some schools and grade levels. Mm-hmm. We also are seeing that we have much work to continue to do, especially encouraging our preschool and younger students whose families need to provide that support and assistance to get them to school. And when it comes to working with our secondary school youth, that becomes about relationships with students and having the kind of engaging curriculum that we heard from our teen empowerment ambassadors tonight. So I would encourage us to continue down that pathway.
All right, thank you.
All right, I think we're ready for you, Dr. Nelms. Oh, hold on. Psych.
I started to do that.
Me too. Thank you. Yeah, those were incredible words, Commissioner Elliott. And we just, I just flew back from D.C. We had our 8th grade students in Washington. And we spent the morning at the African American Museum of History and Culture. And you're absolutely right. There is a lot more work to do. Our students and staff were mesmerized, but I also realized how much history they skipped over and walked by because they didn't have a direct connection to it. So there is a ton of work to do. This trip is incredible. But yeah, I just flew back and I just spending time with those kids in those intimate settings made me realize just how much of a social gap exists as well. And so there's a lot of work to do and a lot of information we need to debrief about their experiences and what we need to do to prepare them earlier so they're prepared to go out into these environments and feel comfortable. So my presentation today is going to be brief, and it's just to highlight some of the information that I shared with the board at our most recent finish line report, and thank you for those who attended. I encourage board members who couldn't make it to possibly reschedule, have some time with the principals and the curriculum leaders, because those individuals are the ones that are truly doing the work. And the work they're doing is having a profound impact, not only academically, but also socially within the building. And I could not do it without the leadership of Marlene Blocker, our principal at the upper school, and Tyann Wilson in our lower school. Those two individuals are doing an incredible job connecting teachers and community and staff to provide incredible opportunities and resources. So some of the data that I shared at the finish line report, if we went over the demonstrable indicators that the state mandates to us to meet because we are a school in receivership. The green indicates the targets that we've already met, and the yellow are the ones that we're working towards. Some of the yellow may not be known until after the 6 through 8 ELA and math exams, but we are tracking those. Lower school is having some tremendous growth there, which is also leading to our students in grades 9 through 12 having a solid foundation moving forward. Ideally, we would love to have a strengthen that partnership between 33 and East or some of the other community schools so that there's a PK through 12 alignment, so we can have those, so to avoid receivership, but also to have tighter coupling between curriculum, instruction, and assessment. At the upper school, this is, the green means we've met those, but remember a lot of these indicators happen after graduation, so how kids perform on ELA or math or graduation rates. We are optimistic that many of those will turn green. There are some that we still struggle with and that we'll probably struggle with for a couple of years, simply because they are from cohorts 2013 and some from 2014, and some of those students are missing. To illustrate that a little bit deeper, the next two slides will help unpack how we can track the data and how we're able to make some of those predictions. If you look at the screen here, and this will not be shared on the public, to the public on the page because there's some student information there. We apologize for that. I thought I took that out, but just the board is seeing that now. You'll see that for each student, you'll see the academic performances in yellow, green, and red, so you have an idea of exactly how they're trending and what they've accomplished. But what's really important is what's to the far right on that slide, which are the specific notes pertaining to each kid. This is done by hand. And so we sit down twice a week and we do a student-by-student review to find out what they've passed, are they aligned for the CDOS, which is the career track, and what other needs do they have. And this starts in 9th grade and it kind of trends through. So by the end of their senior year, there's a complete portfolio of what they've accomplished and what still needs to occur. This is our 3rd year at East, so for our students grades 10, 11, and 12, this year seniors, we didn't do this for them as freshmen, but we started with our freshmen 3 years ago. So by the end of next year, you'll see a really comprehensive review of these students and their academic performance over time. Again, this is something that Marlene Blocker brought to the table. It was not something that the EPO said you must do. It's something that they got together, they meaning the school administration and teacher leaders got together and said this is the best practice for tracking students, and I applaud them for this work. It's had profound impact on how we communicate with parents about their students' progress, but also the students themselves taking ownership for their own actions. The graduation rates here, just to help make sense of this chart a little bit, this is done in collaboration with the data department here, the IMT department, and again also going back through each kid individually. The highest possible graduation rate is 75%. That's based on every kid who attends school. So that's like an aspirational goal. But some of the kids, if you look on the left, some of those kids don't have the 16 credits yet entering junior year to be ready to graduate in 4 years. They may graduate in 5 or 6. So the most likely graduation rate this year is a very conservative figure, which is about 50, I think it's 52.4 or 53%. We anticipate that to grow by August to be somewhere between 55 and 58, depending on how kids do in their exams. Just to remind some of the newer board members who was not here in the beginning, when we first got to East, January of that year, the graduation rates were trending at 19%. We used our receivership funds to do some targeted intervention and got that number to 33%. So again, it was 19 to 33. And after 4, 5 to 6 year, on that 3rd chart, you'll see it's about a 48% graduation rate after 6 years. Where we'll be at the end of year 1 will be, again, between 52 and 58% graduation rate. So you'll see that we're nearly double that amount within 4 years. We should have nearly double the amount in 4 years. And what we're also proud of is that the rate of special ed students and EL students have increased dramatically. So we're really excited about that. I know it's a question that Van always asks and the community asks about graduation rates. And one of the things that I'm always troubled by is whenever students, this goes to Cynthia, Commissioner Elliott's point, whenever our students tend to succeed, there seems to be these microaggressions of doubt around why they're succeeding. And so I often question if people truly believe our kids have the capability to do this work, and I'm seeing them doing that work every single day, being in the classrooms. And so I hope that this experience that we're having at East will help change the perspective of people in the building, teachers and staff, as well as those in the community, as our students get better taught. Many of them are undertaught. The more that they're successful, I hope the conversation change to not doubting their success, but embracing and supporting their success beyond high school. That would be the ultimate goal for me when this project is done. The high school dropout rate, again, I'm just giving you this data. We went over it in depth at the finish line report, but you'll just kind of see, this is all data that we tracked from 2012 to 2017. What you'll see is that you'll see a large number of kids dropping out at East prior, and we're really tracking that. And some of those kids, like in this year's cohort, who will drop out are dropping out because you have to keep them until they take the GED. Once they're prepared, you have to drop them for them to take the GED. So many of our students are taking the TASC or GED courses, and they'll be considered dropouts, I guess, by state standards, but not for us. They walk in our graduation programs, they're in our programs, they have completed high school, and we want to make sure that their hard work is also acknowledged. On this chart, you're going to notice that there's a higher dropout rate, that's a spike there. What we also discovered in year one, which is a troubling discovery, is that some of the previous administrators kept kids on the books so that the seats look full in placement. So if I have 1,400 kids in the book and I know only 1,100 are coming, then placement is less likely to place 300 more kids in the building. And so we worked with the state around this, and we said we're getting hit in two ways on the DI reports. We're getting hit for attendance because they're not coming, so that number is low. And then we're getting hit on dropout rates because eventually those kids have to drop. And so the state suggested to us that we take 1 year and scrub the books to make sure that kids who haven't attended for 2 years, who are above age, that they have to be dropped, so that we're not getting hit for attendance and dropout at the same time. And so you'll see a spike in 1 year for the dropout rates, and that's because we had to go through and actually scrub and clean all the books. And so that was an embarrassing discovery, but it's something that was happening, and it's something that, so our data is clean. The kids that are there are actually there. And I think that's important to note as well as you look at these data. And then I also want to take some time to congratulate our students. And so we had 30 scholars inducted into our National Honor Society this past week. Very, very excited for them, and 8 in the National Technical Honor Society. These kids have done incredible work. This is a national recognition. There's national standards. And our kids are reaching higher and higher and getting inducted into those prestigious opportunities. Also, I think if those who follow us on Twitter may have seen this, but we 2 years ago, our golf program was lacking equipment, and so we put out a call to the community and just to donate equipment, had people, golf pros come, and we had our first student actually participate in sectionals this year. The golf team's number has doubled. It's a very diverse group of individuals, which we're happy to have. Our baseball team won the city championships. And again, I just want to reiterate that the work of Carlos Cotto and Eric Robinson, our athletic director, and other ADs across the city, bringing lacrosse back to the community was incredible. It's funny, one of the first comments I got from a community member was, why are we bringing a white sport to the city? First of all, it was named American sport, but I said, you know, it's incredible that your limited perspective on students in athletics are limited to basketball and football. And so I think that the more I'm engaged with kids in our building, the more important it is for us to expand their opportunities to engage differently in different sports and different clubs, different activities. And the fact that we have enough students across the city to fill 3 lacrosse teams says it's much more than a white sport. It's a sport that's engaging our youth on many levels, and so I'm very happy that that's taken off and that the city has responded well. So thank you, board, for supporting that. And then also, this is we have, as you know, every year we bring some type of local production to East for our students, and then also for the community as a whole at night. You recall we had Angela Davis here, then we had the Collard Green Curves, and now we have Emancipation Denied, the Black Wall Street. A local administrator, Deb Solomon, actually wrote this play and produced it. We have teachers in our building who actually participate in it. I encourage the community to come out to the, either the board to come out for the school portion in the morning. It'll just be a half an hour, 45-minute summary of the play. And then at night, there'll be a full play production. It's an incredible production. It was, it aired last year. I got a chance to see it twice. And I would encourage everyone to come see that. It's our history, American history, Black history, for all of our students and staff and community to see. So I encourage you to that. And it will be free for the teachers and staff and community that support East, and discounted for the community as a whole. All right.
Questions for Dr. Nelm? Start at that end. Commissioner Shepherd. I'm just going to start at that end, and then we're going to work our way down. Is that okay? Commissioner Shepherd.
So, Dr. Nelms, for the upper school dropout rate, that's the page I'm on, it says that 50 students have dropped out since July 1st. Do you know how many of those students we had to identify as dropouts because they were taking the GED or task? Is that a number you can get?
I can find that exact number. I know that the last I checked, at least 10 kids were taking the task.
Okay.
And that number is, I mean, when we first got there, they had very few students enrolled in taking the task. And it's something that the students said they wanted. We work with Freedom School to provide the support there. So it's the task prep, but it's also has a cultural relevance lens. They do a lot of work around the history of Rochester and Black culture and what it means to be, you know, a participant within this community. And NEED has done a really good job with that work. So it's not just a GD prep, there's a cultural component too. They have a parenting piece too.
Yeah.
Some of those young people are parenting.
Okay, and whenever you get the exact number, because I was just thinking that maybe if you don't already have a plan when students are dropping out, if you are able to get in contact with them, if we shuffled them to into that route of taking a GED or task, then that will increase that number so that we might be able to take that back to the state and say, is there some type of change we can make in regards to that?
Great, thank you. Yep. We'll get that number, the exact number. Yep.
Commissioner LeBron, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to say, Sean, I want some tickets, so I inboxed you, and you can just get back to me later.
I'll give you a discounted rate.
Yeah, I'll pay. I just need some tickets.
No.
Commissioner Hallmark?
Just a simple question. The morning production is the same as the evening production on
the
June 1st?
morning, it's a overview for students. And so we show them the overview so they can get their parents to come in the afternoon and see the whole play. So they'll just see snippets of it. They'll explain. They'll have like a one-on-one with the characters in the play. Talk about what Black Wall Street was, what was the Tulsa riots about, and why it's important history. And then hopefully you can go home and encourage your parents to come back and see the whole play. That worked really well a year ago when we had the Collard Green Curves. We had about 50 kids come back with their parents, but a lot of people in the community came. I think we had I think there was about 900 people who came that night for the production.
So it's kind of warming them up in the morning for the evening.
Yeah, and they come off for the first jump. And then the teachers get a pre-pack. They get materials ahead of time to teach the kids about the Tulsa riots and watch videos and things like that.
Great.
Commissioner Funches, you good? Yep. Commissioner Elliott? Commissioner Powell? Any questions? Okay. All right, I do have a question, actually. First of all, I want to say I was at the baseball game yesterday. Almost lost my voice. It was close.
Close, right.
I learned something about, I guess, high school baseball. They don't play 9 innings. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They play seven. I think it's seven.
Yeah.
And no. But they play 7 innings instead of 9. Right. But it was very close until the very end. Coach Crandall, didn't he win?
He won Coach of the Year last year, I believe. Yeah.
This was the sectionals last night. Is that what it was?
Yep.
And you had a great turnout of parents supporting that. The question I had though is regarding ELL students versus district population. What percentage of your students are ELLs at East now?
So right now we have 18% of our students are ELL. These are English language learners, or English is a new language, ENL. And we have 13% of our students are classified students with disabilities. About 31% of our students are either ELL or special ed.
Okay.
Special ed is about the average of the district.
Yeah, what's the average in the district?
I think the average is 14%, I believe. It was last year. I don't know what it is now.
For ELL?
For special ed.
So special ed, okay.
For ELL, we're at 18%. I know that's higher than the district average for all high schools. And then, but there's another subgroup there too, and this is something for Monroe to watch carefully, I'm sure they are, is that often students who are Spanish dominant, they speak just enough English to not qualify for ENL services. So, we hired three bilingual special ed teachers this year who each have a full caseload, so that's about 20 each. It's about 60 kids who receive those services, and then a number of other students who are struggling to grasp English, and those kids don't count as ENL. And so you can have 31% of your students could be special ed ENL, plus have a very large number of kids who are learning English, who speak just enough to not qualify for ENL services. So Monroe is probably very similar. I don't know what Monroe's ELL population is, but at East we have 19 different languages spoken in our school, plus special ed, plus students who Spanish dominant students. Not to say that any of those students are the reason for graduation rates to be low. That's another microaggression, right? That if you have more ELL, more special ed, more bilingual, that means your school is going to fail. I don't believe that to be true. But I do think that if you have those populations without adequate support, your school is more likely to struggle. And so we've used our receivership funds to adequately support, or at least to support more than they had in the past. I think there's always room for more staffing.
So one of the reasons why I'm very intentional in asking this question, and Commissioner LeBron is nodding her head, smiling, because I was at a meeting yesterday, and I'm just trying to get out ahead of the conversation about the success, put that in quotes because it's modest success, but it's clearly success that East High School has had. One of the first things you call it microaggressions. One of the first things people say is, well, you don't have the population of ELL students. You don't have the special needs students. And I just want people to put these results that they've seen today in that context. They do have the numbers that the district has in terms of ELLs, and they do have the same numbers, because I think, again, I anticipate, and the numbers seem to suggest it, that you guys are clearly moving in the right direction. I just don't want people to say, well, wait a second, it's not that. Now, one other factor that people throw in your face, I'm sure, I hear it, is the population.
Right.
What number of students did you start off with? And
So,
where are you
again,
at now?
if you
Because
look
that's what
at-
people say. People say, well, they don't have the students they used to have.
Can I just clarify for the record? Is my mic on?
Yeah.
So,
Wait.
hold on, I just
Commissioner
want to
LeBron,
clarify.
wait, Commissioner Brown. This is how we do it. A person, you could ask a question, you get a response. I'm asking him for his response. And then if you want to ask him a question afterwards, you can.
I'm going to
That's how
ask
we
you a
do it. That's
question
how we
to
do it.
clarify in context of the conversation. But go ahead, Sean, I'll let you respond.
Okay, all right.
That's how we do it.
So I will tell you that that when the EPO was created, the idea was to have 1,200 kids at East at the end of years 3 and 4. So that's 160 kids at grade 6, 160 at grade 7, 160 at grade 8. We then add another 20 kids for grade 9, so the more community kids can come in. So that's 180, 180, 180, 180 for a total of 1,200. Right now we have 990 kids at East. Reason why, or 900, something between 990 and 1,000. Reason why that number is low because we only have 20 kids in 6th grade. And that was intentional this year, because we thought we would have 33 kids coming over starting this school year, which would give us 160 in 6th grade. So next year's 6th grade numbers will be 120. So it'll be 120, 160, 160. Those are average numbers because they're a little higher than 160. 180, 180, 180, 180. So at the end of, starting next year, we'll probably have 1,180 kids or 1,150 kids. And so that's exactly where you said that we would be at the end of year 3, entering year 4. So we're right on track. When we entered the school, we had on books about 1,500 kids. And I know that we had to drop over 2 years, again, kids who didn't attend for nearly 2 years, almost 200 kids. So there were kids who never attended, and no one knew where they were. And so we we used Ibero, we used NEED, we used Center for Youth, and we used our counselors to go out and try to find as many of those kids as possible for an entire year. By doing that, the attendance rate took a hit because those kids weren't coming for a year. And at the end, the state said, at some point, you have to drop kids or you're never going to make it out of receivership because that's a critical indicator. So to answer your question, we're right where we should be.
Commissioner
I just want to clarify again. So in context, the conversation, you gave numbers, ENL 18% and special education 13%. I think the district average for special education is a little bit higher than 14% personally, but I do want to add that in context of the conversation, it's that you guys have lowered ENL and special education at ease from where you guys took it over, where it was at before in terms of those populations. There were higher numbers of both English, ENL students and special education. So where you guys are at now are they are lower numbers from where you guys started. That was all in context. The other thing I just want to clarify that Monroe actually has over 50% that are ENL. Yeah, they're at a very high percentage, and that has historically been because it's been the dumping ground for Latino students, which is why we need to expand Latino seats across different high schools and stop having Monroe High School be the only school. But that was in context to that. So to that conversation that was had yesterday, I just want to clarify that.
No, but I agree with you. I think that as I said something that Monroe might want to watch because if they're bilingual, they're not counted in the ELL number. So the number might actually be higher. So if they're 50% ENL, they might have another 20% that are bilingual, and then another percent that's special ed. So you have an entire school. So I'm just saying that's in context. You're absolutely right. The other thing I would say is of the kids we dropped, most of those kids were special ed kids who were not attending. So our four-year graduation rate for kids with disabilities with the regions before we arrived was 4%. So 4% of kids graduated if they had an IEP from East, and that was over 4 years. 4% total. So I just want to put that in context. So and those kids were the ones that were not attending, that were dropping out, and so we cleaned them up. Many of those kids were special needs, and that's why we have a disposition with the state to have our special ed program look different. We took the same kids, reclassified them with parent permission, and actually give them more services than the state allows. Because we had to give them more illiteracy, more math support, grades 10 through 12, because those kids were graduating at a 4% clip, and that's unacceptable.
Commissioner Funches?
Okay, I just want to clarify for my own understanding. You have a set of ENL students who would be ENL, but they just missed being able to be classified as ENL.
So different. So ENL are typically kids who speak other languages, not always, predominantly not Spanish. So ENL kids, no, they're ENL, they're ENL.
So let's say you have a predominant, all right, wrong term. The point I'm trying to make is you have a set of students who are primarily Spanish speaking.
Those would be bilingual, yes.
Right.
That's how they
bilingual
classify
student.
here. Yep.
I'm trying to say you have a group, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding that you have a group of invisible children. Because that's how I'm hearing them.
Yes.
You have a group of invisible children who need a higher level of support. Right. Because if you have it, Monroe has it. Because of where the kids come from. Right. Like if we've taken, what I'm trying to make sure I understand in the context of what the work we're going to do with special ed and the work around supports for the district and how special ed could also affects gen ed, what I'm trying to make sure I understand is that you're telling me that we in our district have a group of invisible students, is what I'm going to call them, because they do not meet the marker to become visible as either in any of these places to get the additional supports. Am I correct in that?
Yep, your characterization. I would say that there are, I don't want to speak for the district, but I would say that at East, we discovered there were invisible students.
I mean, I'm calling them invisible. I'm not saying that they're not,
but I'm saying is, I'll let Barb answer that, but I'm saying at East, we discovered when we came that there were a large group of invisible students, and they fell in two big buckets. One was students with disabilities, because those kids weren't coming and they weren't graduating. The other major bucket were kids who were Spanish dominant, who did not qualify for ENL services. And so one of the things we did in our first year was get an MOU with the union to pay bilingual certified teachers an additional stipend to come to East. And we took teachers from all over the county to work there because we had such a large number of kids, and we didn't have enough teachers who were certified to be able to support them in English, math, social studies, and science. And so you had that. Now, what I think happens is that there are a large number, and we also had teachers in our building who were bilingual certified who were not in bilingual classes. And so we had to also do some shifting there. And some that's by choice, because you don't have to be in a bilingual class if you're bilingually certified. So the incentive helped them kind of make that decision a little bit. But it shouldn't take money to do that. But in that case, I had to do what we had to do to make sure that those kids had someone who spoke Spanish in those classrooms, particularly in math, English, social studies, and science.
Okay, the The rationale behind my asking is, as we're looking through our schools, if we're looking and we're using the documentation and we have students that are not popping anywhere, we need to ask additional questions to make sure that that those students do become visible, so that we can make sure that they have the specialized supports they need to be successful. That's what I'm asking. How?
And even like on tonight's resolution, you'll see teachers up for translating reading the global exam from Spanish to English. What they're translating is actual students' responses, so that the teachers can understand what they're saying, because that's not a mandate. So we are trying to, whenever possible, if a kid's writing an essay in Spanish, we're trying to make sure that we can have that translated in English with the English teacher, or the teacher who speaks predominantly English, with the Spanish student, with someone as in the middle, so those kids' voices are actually being heard and explained. Because in some courses that you don't mandate bilingual support, like PE or art or music, those kids still have that barrier they have to overcome. And so we're trying to make sure that their services are not only in those core areas, but in their other courses as well. So you'll see some of those things happening over next year as well, with our staff helping other teachers understand and support students and parents who need that work.
All right, thank you.
All right, yep, you're welcome.
Commissioner Elliott?
I did have one other thing. Your National Honor Society students, what is the National Technical Honor Society?
That's the kids who get a little bit. It's the highest of that level, I believe.
And
yeah.
so how many young men? I think I may see some in the National Honor Society, but what's the percentage of young men? And are we looking? Well, let me just ask you to look at trying to get more young men into the National Honor Society and the National Technical Honor Society.
I agree. Yep.
So, but what's the percentage of?
I can't see that picture, but I can find that for you. Yeah. And I think the other question too to ask, I'll ask, is how many of the students as juniors and sophomores are on track to being a National Honor Society?
Well,
and then looking at those ratios as well.
What I want to make sure we're also doing is that we are informing our young men that that's an opportunity.
Yep. I completely agree with you.
All right.
Yep.
I'm
Vice
sorry,
President.
Dr. Nelms, isn't,
Well, I'm just going to let Willa do it, and then I'll come back to you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Nelms, I mean to pile on about the attendance and enrollment, but a couple of weeks ago we had a leadership meeting at School 33, and we did learn that an awful lot of the families there don't want to leave 33 at the 6th grade. They're staying on through 6th grade and are perhaps ready to join East High at 7th grade. Could you tell us again what you said about hoping that you would be able to fill seats with kids from School 33, what the numbers actually were, and how are you going to fill those seats now that we know that 33 is not going to be filling those seats?
So, so I think there's some context there that's missing. One is that the original MOU was to have parents attend the East at the end of 5th grade, unless they indicated otherwise. And that was a thoughtful decision by the board and by, we went with legal and that school community, to be honest, around getting kids enrolled. And what 33 did, which I think is an excellent practice and probably should be replicated, is they decided to actually call each parent and say, you have an option to stay here or leave, and the parent said, well, we'll just stay for our next year. We weren't part of those conversations, so we don't know if they explained that if you, because the MOU was written with the intent that your guaranteed seats 5 go 6, it's not guaranteed 6 go 7, and that was part of the whole choice process, because we didn't want to eliminate other parents and the community members from that choice. So 33 actually called each home, which I think is brilliant. I honestly think that should probably happen in all elementary schools to help them make a thoughtful decision moving into the next year. So because of that, only 33 kids from East, or 30 kids from 33 signed up. Another 90 or so kids from all over the district signed up to come in 6th grade. And I said this in private and I'll say it in public. My major concern about that is that by partnering with 33, we can guarantee the number of ELL, bilingual, and special ed seats because we know it's in there pre-K through 5 or pre-K through 6. By not doing that, we get whoever comes. And I know that when we have our open houses now, the demographics of people who are attending those open houses is different than the demographics of kids at 33. And I've said that privately and I've said it publicly. If we want to prevent schools that have momentum in the community and schools that are getting funding or getting attention from becoming unlike the demographics of kids in the community, we have to create formal pipelines, or you're going to repeat schools with certain parents who are by choice going to certain schools. There's no way for us to stop that. So I'm curious about what our 6th grade picture looks like when they come in. I don't know what the kids look like, but I'm very curious about that because every time we had an open house, it seemed to represent a different population than you typically see at School 33, and that's concerning. And I've said that privately, I've said it publicly, and we'll take whatever kid comes. But we have to, the only way we're going to maintain levels, and that's across the board, that's all schools. Schools have lower special ed or lower bilingual or lower L numbers, is to do it strategically across the board, or we're going to become a school that does not represent that community. And that's concerning. I promised people year one that I was not going to allow it to happen, but I have no control over that at this point.
Commissioner Shepard.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to Commissioner Elliott's question about the Honor Society. Now, contrary to popular belief, it's been a while since I've been in high school. And so I just wanted to just ask that, I know you said junior year that you would start looking at it, and we wanted to inform. Okay, yeah. Because it's a cumulative, right? So they would need to start looking at that. And I just want to make sure.
And then the Technical Honor Society is for those who are career and technical skills. So those are some of our CTE track kids. I was incorrect in my explanation. Technical is the kids who are in a CTE track, and so, but still, to that point, all those kids there should have there should be more males and more people of color in those.
Commissioner Funches.
Okay, to give you the frame, you know East is my home school, and so, and I know about the work with Connected Communities because that's my neighborhood. Right. What supports do you need to help families to understand what you just said to us and to also understand what it means to have what I've been calling like a transformational vision for a pre-K-12 education? What supports do you need to help either partner with 33, partner with NEED, partner with whoever? What supports do you need so that we can help? Because I mean, as a parent, if you had said to me, do you want to stay where you've been for the last few years because you could stay one more year? I say, oh, yeah. You know, I know my teachers, I know the principal, this is comfortable. Right. What can we, what you're talking about is a bigger thing. Yeah. So what supports do you think that you would need to help the families of the Beechwood and Emma and those communities to understand what, you know, the vision that is, what we're trying to do? Well, I think what might be helpful is if we revisit the plan that we originally put in place, and that was a plan that was co-constructed with the district and East and the parents, quite frankly. I mean, the community agencies are the ones, not Connected Communities, but the other ones, George Moses and others, right. And Larry. I mean, the parent group was the most vocal advocate for this model, and somewhere between the MOU and to the point where kids were placed, I think there was just a lack of communication and coordination. The original idea was to have curriculum and instruction aligned, pre-K through 12, to align resources. I know Bo's not here, he had surgery, but to Bo's credit, he really tried to bring that together the last few months. Since the MOU, I think there's been some turnover, and so I think if it's not a priority, then I don't think it'll get done. So I think, and I know Barbara's been open to these conversations too. I mean, she can speak to it as well. But I think that we have to go back to the original purpose of what we were doing and have a clear plan. And some things you have to just follow through on and make it at the forefront. Again, I said to folks that my next concern is when parents apply to Willow's Point at the end of next year, and those 20 coveted seats aren't there because the first priority goes to siblings. And then, like, you know, school goes siblings and community, and then those seats may not, some of those kids at 33 aren't from the community, they're not siblings, and so there's another disconnect. And it just doesn't, like, we've aligned dental, pre-K through 12, we're putting 2 dental chairs at East because they have a small mobile at 33. We're connecting, we're forcing, imagine this, Rochester Regional and Strong to actually talk to one another so they can do the nursing program, pre-K through 12. We've gotten funding put aside, both private and public funds. We could have used community schools funds this year to bridge that. So I think the longer we wait to make a formal plan, I think the less likely it's going to occur.
And if that's the outcome, so be it. But I just think that I don't think it's what we want. And I think that's not what I promised the board I would do. But I am not excited about seeing what the demographics look like at East next year. So,
Commissioner
I'm
Braun?
excited to have the kids, but I'm just hoping it's not what I think it's going to be.
Lots of questions tonight, Sean.
That's
So
all right.
just 2 more points. Can you get me the ENL and the special education numbers when you started and where they're at now?
I can do that.
And then also, so Rochester Regional Health, as you know, personally, I work there, but they are supposed to be communicating with Strong. It is actually a directive from the state
It's
and
happening
district.
now. It's happening
It's
now.
supposed to be. So if you are having a problem with it, please let
I'm
me
not.
know
I'm not.
so that I can bring it to the attention internally as well.
It's not,
All
no.
right, thank
And
you.
and in those numbers, I'll make sure I add of the dropouts over the last few years, how many of those
Yes.
kids are ENL special ed. Because, I mean, that's our large, in the East, that was our largest dropout rate were kids with special needs,
Okay.
unfortunately.
All right, thank you.
Oh, yep, Commissioner Hallmark?
So yeah, Dr. Nelms, I wanted to say I understand the vision of the pipeline, 33 to East. However, I don't think that there's a large percentage of kids at 33
It's not.
who are from the neighborhood.
22%, I believe it was a couple years ago.
So it seems like
Yeah.
that vision of sort of community and neighborhood and moving in that direction kind of needs to start with 33.
I think that like I said, it's a comprehensive plan that has to be put in place. So we were looking at 2 things. One was over time to recreate neighborhood schools. That was the vision of the mayor, the vision of the district, the vision of parents. At the same time, creating a community school. So we understood that because of choice, we don't have schools that have a large percent of kids from the neighborhood in them, particularly in our area. 28 is the closest school to us, to be honest with you. 45 is just as close as 33. But the idea was that 33 was large enough to fill the seats because they had about the same size of kids. So it was a natural connection. It is the only other school so East and 33 are the only schools in the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative zone. And so we had state and federal funds to support that. We also had 2 of the major funders in the area supporting that, communities being one for education and now Conard Foundation. And other foundations were getting involved as well with mental health supports. And so from a planning process, it made sense. I just think that when we got down to implementation, we could have done a better job collectively. And that's not, I hope no one heard me placing blame on the district or placing blame on the EPO or on School 33 or East. I think there's a lot of collective opportunities that were missed. And I'm hoping that we can continue to do that. I mean, I own it just as much as the district will own it. But there's a point in time in which we have to make some solid decisions around that, or just accept that that's not going to occur, and move forward. But I don't think keeping folks in limbo is a good idea. It's going to cause more confusion and more anger.
And just to sort of piggyback on that, I think, and you've made this point very clearly, the last thing we want is another special school that is like Soda or School Without Walls, where only special folks go or people got the opportunity to go. And I think one of the ideas behind the pipeline was to do that. The other thing behind the pipeline, too, was, you guys were right in trying to create a lower school to prepare those kids in 6th grade to enter into high school. But I thought the idea behind creating that pipeline connection with 33 was to get at those children even earlier, have a coordinated curriculum, have a coordinated approach. And I'm concerned that that's not happening either. It just so happens, we had a leadership meeting at 33 with Principal Ellison, and that was followed by a leadership meeting, and I don't think this was done intentionally, but we had a leadership meeting at East. And it was clear in going to both those meetings that there is not the coordination that the board had called for. Because again, the idea was to get kids ready. And also, for those that weren't here, to see if we could create a model that we could replicate throughout the district. So this wasn't just supposed to be something special for East and then something special for 33. The idea was to create something that we could replicate, because Barbara and others had talked about, maybe this is the approach. But if we're not doing that with fidelity, we'll never know whether this approach works or not.
I agree.
Can I just ask because I was not here when that was what happened, were parents at 33 contacted about that? and agreed
yeah.
to do that before you guys made the agreement?
It was spearheaded by the parents, to be honest with you. It was the parents who spoke loudly about this plan. It was introduced. It was the parent groups and the parent PTA endorsed it.
How many parents is that though? Because some of our groups only have like 3 parent voices,
I can tell you the
unfortunately.
one meeting I went to had about 30 parents there.
Okay.
In the cafeteria. They served ice cream and all that. And then every meeting, they have one of the strongest parent groups at 33, just so you know.
Okay.
And then there was community meetings that was held by George Moses' team at Need. There were, we had every event that we had at school, 33 kids and parents came over. It was well attended. Like it was endorsed by communities, endorsed by parents, even the teachers who thought they might lose their jobs in 6th grade because if it went K-5 eventually and it would become 6-12, they thought they would be displaced. Not lose their job, but be displaced from 33. Even they endorsed it. They said it makes sense. So I've never received any feedback that it was not favorable from any of the stakeholder groups at all. And if it was, I wasn't made aware
So
of
the
it.
breakdown is happening at 33, or is
No,
it
I
happening
think
here at central office?
I think the breakdown is us. I think there are a lot of initiatives happening in the district. I think there are a lot of priorities. And that's district meaning East included. And I just think that we have to either make it a priority to make this happen or not. And I think it has to have the attention like any other priority would have. And again, it's really about, can't do everything well. Is this something we want to do well or not? And if it's not, we should be honest about that. And if we do want to be, then we have to put a plan in place to make it happen entering the 2018-19 school year.
Commissioner LeBron?
All right, yes.
This is my neighborhood, and I know that at the time there was a lot of outreach, and this was supposed to be the thing, that kids were going to be able to stay, because what it was going to do was, what part of the plan was to bring kids back home, so the kids wouldn't be going, and so that there would be a higher, like you talked about the percentage, raise the percentage of neighborhood kids going to 33, because the kids could know, their parents could know the whole thing, because we're trying to shore up our neighborhood.
But
And
all the
so-
parents that they called said no, they stayed at 33. So I'm just
Right.
curious
No,
to what
I
parents
understand
said that
what
they
you're saying,
wanted
but
it, and then.
I'm saying around the question that you asked, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So, never mind.
Commissioner Shepard, and I know you've got a full agenda, and I don't know if this is necessarily the best way to handle it, but obviously this is a discussion that needs to continue at some level of board involvement. And I don't know, you're very busy. I don't know whether this could be something you could put on your plate for your committee, but it seems to be the logical place to follow up on some of these inquiries and see if there's anything we can do to flush this out. So maybe you can, if you're willing, you can put that on your calendar, or agenda.
And again, I just want to say, I hope that my words were honest and transparent. You guys know who I am, but also not accusatory, because I own it as much as anyone else should. I think we could have been more assertive in making sure some things happened. I think we could have been more open to the community. I mean, there's a ton of things that could have happened between the MOU and entering the school year. I'm saying to the board now and the community, I'm committed to making that happen for the upcoming school year, but I can't do it unless there's a plan in place. So.
All right, folks, thank you very much, Dr. Nelms. We're going to move on. I know Genesis is, well, you probably don't have any, Regents are next week. Are you through school? Oh, okay, all right. So you could stay here all night then. Okay, all right. So go ahead, Genesis, you're up.
Okay, so I'm going to begin with the debrief of what we went over yesterday at our SLC meeting. And I'm going to start with the United Way of Greater Rochester. SLC met with Stephanie M. Fitzgerald to speak about programs that can be installed for the youth. We were asked 3 questions. The first one was, what are the realities of your lives? And in sum, the answer was, most of us are from the hood or the projects, which is a place where there's violence, drug use, substance abuse, and weapons, etc. And as I'm saying this, because I'm one of the ones who contributed to this, and as I'm saying this, I'm thinking I don't mean to sound to make it sound like it's all bad, but then it's like it is that bad, and oh, thank you. And just thinking about it, I'm like, wow, this is actually going on where we live. This is actually going on where I live. And it was just we become so like desensitized to it, like that we're so used to this that we don't even see it as a problem anymore. We just see it as something that is going on in our lives. So that's just one of the answers that we said. The second question was, what in the community has supported success? And out of that, we came up with Boy and Girl Scouts, rec centers. We know that rec centers have a lot of sports teams and regular sports that are in school, that those keep kids on track, and they keep kids or students who want to have their grades up, because if they don't have their grades up, they can't play. So then we talked about Police Explorer programs, that they are supportive, and also the CPPS program, Career Pathways to Public Safety. I know I'm in that program, and I'm graduating from this program this year. And I know those are just things that have supported the students, have supported children growing up in this urban area. The third question is, what is missing in support of young students? And something we agreed on was that teachers need, or teenagers need, more programs, because they're the ones who are influenced greatly. They are growing up, learning who they are, and when there are negative influences surrounding them, that has an effect on the person they become. And we said this because we see there's a lot of programs put in place for young students, like Boy Scouts and rec centers, but some rec centers on the teams, you can't, after you're 12 or 13, you can't play the sport anymore. And it's just okay, but what about the students or the children who are older than 12, older than 13? It's what about them? We can't forget about them. We can't forget that they're the ones who are still growing up. They're the ones who learning who they are. And the influence is greater on them because they're the ones who have more freedom. They have the choice to see who they become, and they're learning who they are in this world. And when we don't have that guidance for them, and when we don't have that support for those students and those children who are teenagers, occasionally from 13 and up, it's just it feels like we're leaving them alone, and it feels like we're not helping them. We're just saying okay, now you're older, you can do it, you can figure it out on your own. And it's just not fair to them, because it feels like we're forcing them to be grown-ups already without guiding them into how to be an adult, how to be a grown-up. After that, we talked about the RCSD activities and requests, and SLC, among other students, are meeting with Parks and Recreation of the City of Rochester by invitation to discuss renovations for our city. And we will be meeting Wednesday, May 30th, 2018, from 4 to 6:30 p.m. at Central Office on the 3rd floor in Conference Room A and B. Dinner from Dinosaur Barbecue will be served, and bus passes will be available for students. SLC is asking everyone to please reach out to students for them to attend the meeting. We would like about 60 to 70 students to attend, and if that can't happen because of such short notice, it's okay, we'll do what we can with what we have. And if students would like to attend, please have them RSVP to Mr. Tony Jordan at 262-8362, preferably by Friday, May 25th, and the latest by Monday, May 28th. And I don't know how to use this. This one? Okay, so moving on to Washington, D.C. close-up field trip. As many probably know, May 6th through 11th, 2018, SLC attended the close-up field trip in Washington, D.C. We visited the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which was by far our favorite. National sites, we visited memorials, and we were able to participate in civic debates. SLC was very thrilled to be able to go on a field trip like this. And although it may not have been exactly what we expected, the trip was definitely an eye-opening experience for the SLC team. We were able to meet students from all over the country, many of which have never met or interacted with people of color and people from larger urban areas. And for most of us, this caused some tension, but it provided us with an experience to learn and to teach them. We want to thank the Rochester City School District for making this possible. We'd also like to give a big thanks to Ms. Denise Quamina, Mr. Tony Jordan, and Mr. Stephen Lamort for being there to guide us and support us through the experience. We'd like to give an extra special thanks to Stephen Lamort, who woke up in the middle of the night to bring Harmony and I wings, since we decided it was such a good idea to call him because we were craving some. So, you know, just shout out to Mr. Lamort. He came through. So, yeah. That's all I have for today. And as I said, I will be taking my AP exams tomorrow, AP exam tomorrow. Thank you. So I will be leaving the meeting. Oh, any questions?
That was May 30th?
Which one?
The Parks and Rec, May 30th?
Yes, May 30th.
So what did you, you all went to the African American
Yeah.
Museum? Tell me one of the, what some of the things that or one thing that was most poignant to you?
So it was huge. Like, I mean, like, we need to go back there again because we didn't even get to finish.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was amazing. What really spoke out, or what I felt that. What I really felt was when we were walking, they had like ramps going up, and like you just go up to the different levels. And I was walking by, and they had videos up there. And when I sat down and I wanted to watch the video. And what spoke out to me was like the thing that people of color want to understand is not for white people, for Caucasians to understand, is that we're not mad at them. We're not blaming them for being white. We just want them to know that they have white privilege and that there's a way that they can use that to help us. Like, it's not just about them. Like, it's not a war between we hate you guys and you hate us. It's more like we want to work with you guys. So don't think that we're in hate of you. It's like, we need your support, basically. We need all hands we can get. We can't keep living in the world of racism, and which is something that we actually did experience on this trip, and that was the tension that I was talking about. And we just need, and which is something I brought to the attention to the other students that were there, that they do have white privilege, and I'm not gonna lie about that. They have the white privilege, but the thing is that they need to, or we'd like them to use that in order to help us. And also, like, it was good to see how, or it wasn't, I wouldn't say good, but like how they showed the truth. Like, it's not like what we're learning in school right now, we're learning about white America. Like, that's what we're learning about, white America. We're not learning about where we come from. We're not learning about that we were kings and we were queens.
Come on.
We're not learning about that.
Say it.
And that's what we need to be learning. And going to this museum helped me and bettered me in learning that, and I was able to see all that, and it just like it spoke to me, because I'm like, dang, like, this is where I come from. But why, when we learn in school, like, we learn that we come from slavery, but it goes way back before that. Like, we came from better than that. So it just really spoke to me, and to see how we could rise from that and how we're still rising from that.
Thank you.
I just want to say to you that, yes, slavery and our period of enslavement is not our history. Our period of enslavement interrupted our history. Okay, so as you go forth, and the thing is, I am glad that you experienced what you experienced there in the company of caring adults, because this is the world that you are in, and being able to see that in juxtaposition, seeing this up against the history of your history that runs through you. I want you to understand that this is what, you were built for this. Mm-hmm. Your ancestors built this, and you are built for this. So as you go forth and you go and slay your AP exam tomorrow, okay, I want you to understand that it was not by happenstance that the ancestors allowed you to experience both those things in the same place. It's so that you will understand and be able to stand with your head tall, your chest poked out, and go forth knowing that you are queen. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
And just one other thing that I in watching the Gullah. I saw the CNN special on the Gullah community in South Carolina. And they use the word, I no longer will use the word slave. I will use enslaved. That's a huge difference. We were enslaved, but we're not slaves. So I just want to pass that on, and if you could pass that on to your peers as well.
Definitely.
Thank you, Genesis.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments? All right, go take those exams. All right. Next on our agenda is the bilingual report, council's report. I don't believe we have a written one, and I don't see anybody here from the bilingual council. Our clerk will check on that. Also, a PAC report. I don't believe we have a written PAC report, and they are normally here, and I'm sure there's a reason why they are not. So we'll check on that as well. So that leaves us with board reports. Vice President Powell.
Thank you. Point of personal privilege first. While you were at East High's sectional baseball game, I was at my son's modified baseball game against McQuaid last night. A lesson in how to cheat and get away with it. In modified, you cannot start another inning after 6 p.m. And Soda's team was catching up. The score was 5-4. And McQuaid's coach decided to put in a couple of relief pitchers just to make sure that there wasn't going to be another inning, because in one more inning we could have beat them. Oh, wow. So it was very exciting. The kids all felt a moral victory anyway, because they had previously never done so well against McQuaid. It was really, really exciting. So back to the finance report.
But they cheated?
McQuaid, yeah. Like how to make sure that.
Cheated.
Yeah, and get away with it. And that's a Catholic school for you.
Oh, Lord.
The Finance Committee report, we met on Thursday, May 17th. We had a very full agenda that included the third quarter elementary school activity funds report. It also included our regular monthly report with budget amendments. We actually stockpiled our budget amendments to this month because in order to do our bonding, and I know that Mr. Alan Williams is here to make sure that Resolution 888 passes. That's our resolution to bond for the facilities modernization. We have budget amendments this month that include grants that we actually knew about and received last month, but this allows us to get one amendment in within the window that our bonding authorities need it to be. So we have resolutions for the budget amendments, resolutions 895 through 898 in the packet today. And the numbers that back up those amendments are in the financial reports, which I move at this time that the board accept.
It's been moved, and is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Hallmark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the student activity funds report. I move that the board accept that.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hallmark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you. And the remaining resolutions all are being advanced with the Finance Committee's recommendation. Resolutions 872 through 874 are procurement and supply. 875 through 889 for facilities, that includes the bond resolution. Our budget amendments, which are resolutions 895 through 898, and a handful of others, 892, 899 through 901. There was one resolution that we had advanced but has since been withdrawn. I think that the parking space at Downtown Cabaret needs a little more work because it was pulled. Our next scheduled Finance Committee is June 14th, and that concludes my Finance Committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Powell. Commissioner Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just also, for point of personal privilege, just give a shout out to School 9. I visited School 9 on Friday. Didn't know that they had a health center over there. I guess I haven't been over there in a long time to do a tour. So, but for the last 3 or 4 years that they've had a health clinic over there. So I was really impressed with the work that Sharon Jackson and her team are doing over there. I went to all the classes, unless they did it just for me. But everybody was just really calm. There was one little kid I was so proud of that something had happened and he was upset, but he was really standing his ground. You know, he was really protecting who he was. And I was so, he was about 3rd grade or so, but I was just so impressed with that he was not going to back down of protecting himself. And I was just really, really, just thought that was just, I have high regards for what he did in taking care of himself. So I'd like to give the report. May 22nd, the Community Intergovernmental Relations Committee met, and everybody was there, Commissioner LeBron, except you.
I know.
I know.
And I wanted to be there. Can I just
there.
say that I was at the poverty stimulation with my team from Rochester Regional, and I was there till 9, so I apologize.
Oh, no. It was not a meeting of the whole. It was just a meeting, but,
I know, but
people
I
showed
wanna
up.
be there.
Oh, all right. So it was really a great meeting. I thank everybody for attending that meeting. We re-reviewed the legislative agenda, and now we're looking at how do we operationalize that? How do we look at continuing to put our agenda before the legislators? And so we talked about on some levels of another letter writing campaign. We also talked about making some visits. We also, talked about what else did we talk about with regard to that? Some other things that we talked about in terms of the actual legislative agenda and keeping that in the forefront of our legislators' minds. So we will talk about that in succeeding meetings. We also talked about, there was, I think last year when we talked about the board developing a culturally responsive white paper in Rochester. And so those discussions have started already. We have spoke with some people down at New York University around helping us to do some research around that and developing that kind of white paper. In other words, what does cultural responsiveness really looks like in a school district? And so what does it look like in the organizational culture? What does it look like in terms of teachers really infusing cultural responsiveness in the curriculum? How do they talk? How do we limit, as Dr. Nelms talked about, those microaggressions? And so we're looking at talking about this white paper. We had an initial meeting about it. There is some conversations around work being done, I should say, more than conversations, around cultural responsiveness on the state level, I understand. And in fact, I did get that information today, although I'm on vacation until next Thursday, so I will not be looking at it, but I did tell them that. So, but we do have that information, and we're going to start to look at that, what they're doing on the state level, and then how can we cooperate with the state, but also how we can do this in an urban environment. And it appears that Rochester may be the first, one of the first of the big five to do something like this. And so, you know, how do we take this white paper and really, once it's done, and people take it and use it and leverage within their classrooms, within the administration, you know, how do we do that? So that's something that we're working on. If there are people that are interested, please give the board office a call and we will reach back out to you. So that's something that we're working on. We're also working on a communications plan, and how do we as the board help the district to really talk about issues and communicate to our community around certain issues. We just talked about, the superintendent talked about attendance, for example. How can we, in terms of developing a communication strategy to help to say, you know, you need to be in class. For example, I use with the committee about, you know, if you just go to school, you go to class, have a good have a good attitude, that's at least a C. You know, so in terms of developing strategies around attendance, and how do we look at that, what seems to be that 11th and 12th grade where kids stop coming to school, how do we help to develop a strategy around ensuring that kids are in class? So the board is doing that work, you know. How do we help in that, in taking that back out to the community? So that's something, that's an example of something that we're looking at. You know, maybe one of the things that we could say, you know, we could work on is how do we help them to get employment on that level, you know, because they may only have 1 or 2 courses that they're taking, but how do we help them, what incentives do we use? How can we help with that? So that's something that just came to me tonight, and that's something that we're looking at as well. The committee also looked at doing forums for the fall and for the spring. One of the forums that we talked about was the code of conduct, and we also talked about attendance. And so we're looking at what forums to do. I think the last one that the Community Intergovernmental Relations did was around receivership, and that's been a few years ago. So we're looking at getting back out into the community to make sure that our community is informed. And then lastly, I think I've covered just about everything. We did talk about the local diploma that county legislator John Lightfoot is advocating for. So there's more discussion that we're going to have around the local diploma. And then lastly, the Community and Governmental Relations Committee is scheduled for June 7th, but when I was just talking to the student, I forgot that I have to be at the graduation for the public safety program. So today we're going to have to look at rescheduling that because I missed last year and got beat up really bad that I did not attend. So I want to make sure that I attend that. And then another point of personal privilege, I am looking to an amendment to the board's bylaws, policy 2300, in reference to reinstating the Human Resources Committee as a standing committee of the board, and I'd like to refer that to policy and to the governance committee.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. Commissioner Funches?
Thank you. The Policy Committee met on Wednesday, May 16th, to discuss a number of proposed policy revisions based on recommendations from the New York State School Boards Association, to consider 2 new proposed policies and to receive information about its new superintendent regulations. The policies proposed for revision based on NYSBA recommendations are the School District Records Policy 1120. These policy revisions refer to New York State regulations regarding record retention and disposal and direct the superintendent to develop regulations governing disposal of records. Security Breach and Notification Policy 1300. The changes proposed to this policy clarify the extent of private information, explain the requirement to provide student directory information to recruiters and the option of parents to opt out, and direct the superintendent to establish regulations describing the procedures for identifying security breaches and for notification when a breach occurs. Cross-reference to the recruiting by organizations with restrictive membership or employment practices policy 1240.1 is included. Public use of school facilities policy 1500. After reviewing the New York State School Boards Association sample policy, committee members determined that the necessary changes could best be addressed through revising the regulation. The smoking on school premises policy 1530. The updates to this policy are in recognition of the use of e-cigarettes, which are prohibited to the same extent as those containing tobacco. The proposed policy also specifies that no type of smoking or vaping is allowed within 100 feet of the entrance or exit of a district building or in district vehicles. It also clarifies that no smoking signs must be posted at these locations and in vehicles. The gifts to district officers and employees policy 1810. This policy includes gifts to individual district employees or officers as well as donations to the district, a particular school or student. The proposed changes would establish criteria for the board's acceptance of donations and only require review and formal acceptance of donations in excess of $1,500. The members of the policy committee requested additional input from general counsel regarding the implications of these new provisions, which will be considered in our next meeting. Visitors to school policy 1240. The changes to the proposed to this policy include a requirement for parents to coordinate their visits to their child's classroom with school staff at least 24 hours in advance. However, the committee members do not want to create undue restrictions on parents visiting their child's classroom. After considerable discussion, it was decided that a public forum will be held in June to gather input from parents and staff members regarding the changes proposed to this policy. In addition, Steve Carling presented 2 new policies for committee members' consideration: wandering and elopement policy and defense and indemnification policy. The proposed wandering and elopement policy is intended to address student safety and establishes specific requirements for school-based staff. Providing annual training for all buildings-based staff members, incorporate wandering and elopement procedures into each school safety plan, and include specific elements in each school safety plan. Information and explanation of physical features, modifications of a school building that may discourage student wandering and elopement or facilitate notification of staff. Protocols for notifying staff of specific students that have a history of wandering or elopement, defined as 2 or more incidents in the current or prior school year. Procedures for notifying 911, parents and family, and central office when an incident occurs. School-wide communication and alert system. Explicit staff assignments for building and ground searches, and a system for ensuring that students who have a history of wandering carry basic identification at all times. School administrators are to strategically assign specific staff members around the school building during transition times. Members of the policy committee plan to seek input from school chiefs about ensuring that all staff members in school buildings are trained on wandering and elopement procedures before the students arrive on the first day of school each year. The new proposed defense and indemnification policy reflects provision of New York State Public Officers Law, which protects district employees, volunteers, and officers from personal liability when acting in compliance with the law and in performing their official duties. Committee members requested further clarification to the extent of protections offered under this proposed policy, which will be discussed with General Counsel in the next meeting. Mr. Carling also provided members of the policy committee with a new superintendent regulation regarding sexual harassment. This regulation will accompany the new proposed sexual harassment policy 0110, which is presented this evening for your consideration for adoption. So for adoption this evening, we under Resolution 895, the new sexual harassment policy 0110. This policy is based on a sample policy from the New York State School Boards Association, but is more comprehensive in addressing the overall discrimination based on gender, gender identity, and expression. A policy specifically regarding Title IX is legally required, and the proposed policy fulfills this requirement. In addition, several policies are introduced this evening as information items. School District Records Policy 1120, Security Breach and Notification Policy 1300, and Smoking on School Premises Policy 1530. In June, the Policy Committee will conduct a public forum to gather input regarding changes that have been proposed to the Visitors to Schools Policy 1240.1. Within the next few months, the Policy Committee will also consider amendments to Board Bylaws 2300 regarding the reinstatement of the Board's Human Resources Committee. This proposal was presented by Commissioner Elliott to enable the Board to review personnel appointments, promotions, assignments, and upgrades, review extra compensation resolutions regarding personnel, Review tentative collective negotiation settlements pending legislative approval by the full board. Review diversity initiatives, guiding the development, review, and authorization of personnel policies and procedures to increase recruitment and support of the district's racial and culturally diverse staff. Monitor the district's recruitment and retention of monitoring the district's recruitment and retention human capital management practices and strategies. Reviewing recruitment and retention data detailing the demographics of district applicants and and hires, and review and approve newly created positions and related job descriptions. Monitor the administration of the district's compensation philosophy and programs for all staff. Develop policies related to personnel for consideration by the full board, and review employee recruitment and retention strategies. The proposed purpose of the Human Resource Committee is to ensure that we are representing the best interests of our community and to increase our oversight of district resources. The next policy committee meeting will be a public forum on Wednesday, June 20th, regarding the proposed revision of visitors to school policy 1240. Also, I would like to request a motion to formally accept the report and the recommendations of the Committee to Review Special Education Programs and Services developed by the advisory body commissioned by the board per Resolution 561.
Moved by Commissioner Elliott, and seconded by?
Second.
Commissioner Funches. Well,
Yeah,
I should have said, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I'll second it, but.
Commissioner Funches, and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, you're good?
We're good.
All right, Commissioner Hallmark?
All right. So I think I'll start with a personal privilege as well. As you all know, that all of us have 7 or 8 schools that we're liaisons to, and I try to make a habit of visiting my schools on somewhat of a regular basis. I wanted to point out some notable things that I saw just at 3 schools I'm picking out for tonight, where they're doing some good building of community. So in School 8, I saw a wonderful beautification project that's been launched where they're building a garden and doing some planning for structures, and there was a lot of excitement about that where they launched that off, and lots of parents were there. It was very exciting. I also saw a wonderful spring concert at School 15, and that was a lovely event as well. And also a few weeks ago when we visited SODA at our leadership meeting, I was pleased to hear about some of the initiatives that Principal Nicastro is doing there, and one in particular that stood out to me was in terms of building the community there, knowing every student by face and name. She's meeting with 7th and 8th graders, I think it is, on a regular basis so that she gets to know that whole class, and I just thought that was a great example of building community and helping kids get to know each other and the staff as well. So that's, those are my little notable observations about building community going on in across the schools. As far as the governance committee, we did not meet since the last business meeting. However, I want to point out that we are about to move to that time of year where we go into the evaluation, so we'll be heading into staff and administrative evaluations pretty soon. And then, of course, our retreat is coming up soon after that. In the summertime, we'll be talking about that pretty soon. And in the summer retreat, we basically review the year and start planning for the next year. And so it's a really important thing that happens every year. And that's it. And our next governance committee is scheduled on June 7th. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Hallmark. Commissioner LeBron?
Yes, the audit committee met on Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. We met with Freed Mavix. I always mess up that name. Just so you guys know. The external auditor to review the audit plan for the June 30th, 2018 independent audit. All board members were invited to attend, and consistent with the plan, some of the work on the financial audit began this week. We also received a status update from the members of the Finance Organization and Human Resources on the status on the Office of State Comptroller's recommendations, which are expected to be completed by June 30th, 2018. There was wait, hold on. There has been work performed. However, there are several recommendations that have not yet been completed, and considerable work is still required in purchasing. So we were unable to review all of the outstanding purchasing recommendations. Therefore, we are scheduling another meeting to complete the remaining items. Superintendent Barbara Dean Williams was in attendance at the meeting, and we trust that she will manage her staff to ensure all outstanding items are completed. And that includes my report for audit. And on a side note, I want to give, I've had the opportunity to visit a few schools. So School 41 last week had a fashion show. It was called the Godly Divas Fashion Show. And they had students from School 41 and 25, and it's an after-school program that parents can opt in, and it has a religious component to it, but also an academic component to it, and self-esteem building for young girls. And there were so many parents there on a Friday night to watch all of their daughters participate in this fashion show, and it was pretty amazing. And so shout out to Principal Lisa Whitlow, who not only coordinated that, allowed that program to be in her school, but coordinated and did a lot of outreach to parents to participate. I also want to give a special shout out to Paul Conroe, who I met yesterday with Liz Hallmark and Van White, and learned more about the Precision Optics program at East High School, but also some fascinating ideas about how we can expand STEM across high schools. And Cynthia, he mentioned your name. He said next time we meet, he said bring you. He said me, you, and him got to meet next time. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Commissioner Shepard.
So the ESA committee met on May 10th, and it was our last committee of the whole, probably for a while, but we did that because we needed to figure out what we were going to do in regards to our Path Forward initiative, and we also got updates from the Every Student Succeeds Act for the changes that are coming through there. So the committee also had a presentation from students, Kiana Cord and Zymeria Daniels. They collaborated with reporter Justin Murphy and also Olivia Lopez, who is from the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and they presented to us their research on a student journalism project. And what they did was, the students, they interviewed a number of students who have experienced homelessness within our district, as well as staff from the district and from community agencies serving these students. They also did a video that they put on for us, and they had an editorial that ran in the Democrat and Chronicle. So I wanted to shout them out and shout out Justin Murphy and Olivia Lopez at the DNC for putting on that project with our students. We also had Dr. Gio Martino and Rob Uleman. They did a presentation for the ESSA updates. Those things, I believe, they are posted on board docs, so you can see how our district and our schools will move into being identified in the different areas that the state is going to move towards looking at our schools. We also had an interactive poster session in regards to our Path Forward initiative. Board members examined the implications of 3 options of the Path Forward in terms of equity, constituent response, complexity of implementation, and budget, facilities, and transportation. And although we did have a clear preference of what we wanted to do as a board, which was sustain our managed choice option that we already have within the district, there was a request that we have an action plan before we move forward with any plans in regards to our stance on that. So we won't vote until an action plan is presented to us in regards to our option for Path Forward. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, June 12th at 5:30.
Thank you, Commissioner Shepard. Any questions for any of the committees?
I had another point of personal privilege.
Yeah.
But
No, go ahead.
Oh, the other thing, I did mention last month about the United Way and how the United Way has impacted me personally, and the fact that I probably wouldn't be sitting here if it were not for funding that was provided at Lewis Street Center when I was a little kid. And I understand that there were people who did give at the leadership level as a result of that, that call, and so I'm just want to, one more time, just ask that those of you who still have not given to the United Way, if you be willing to give and give at the leadership level, because just like me and far many other people, it does have the impact on the lives of our community. So I really would encourage you to give, and if you can give at the leadership level, please do so. Thank you.
Commissioner,
Yes, go ahead. Yep.
I just want to take a point of personal privilege. Last week, I think it was, we presented the findings of the special ed report to the Special Ed Parent Advisory Council, CPAC. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the parents of CPAC, because we asked of them to come to volunteer to be on the committees that will be in phase 2. And they were so willing to put their shoulders to the wheel and work with us. And I just wanted to take a moment just to shout them out, and again to shout out the committee who worked with us all those weeks to produce the report, and especially all the community members who came on their own time after work in the evenings every Monday night for 2 months to do that. And I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the board, on behalf of families, and behalf of the families of special ed.
Thank you, Commissioner Funches. In terms of my report, I guess I'll pick up on what you just said. James Baldwin once said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And so with that remark, I would thank you, Commissioner Funches, and all those folks that you just mentioned, because this is probably our greatest challenge. We have many in the district, but how we deal with our children that are most vulnerable is a critical task before the district. And you and those folks that you mentioned took that task on. And not that anything is done just yet, but to face it, it was perhaps one of our greatest challenges. And I can't emphasize enough, personally and on behalf of the entire board, we appreciate your doing that. And I know as you continue to work on phase 2, you will share that gratitude with those folks, as I know you will. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, I wanted to thank Shanae Lee, Dr. Lee, and all of our staff. Now, y'all need to listen to this, because we don't do it enough. So, Shanae, this is directed towards you and our staff. You do yeoman's work for the district. I don't know that folks out there really realize what our staff does to get this done. And I'm not to call anybody out, but all these reports that are so eloquent and nicely done, let's keep it real. I know everybody would admit it here, they're done by staff, right? We edit, right? But they work really hard. That president's report that y'all haven't gotten in several weeks, it's because our staff is doing so many other things. I edit, I throw in stuff here and there, but Shanae and her staff do all that work. And I think we ought to take the time to recognize what they do. And I know the board has had meetings where we've discussed, we have to be mindful that this work doesn't get done, this district doesn't operate without the people who maybe aren't sitting up here. So I want to thank you, and you will communicate on my behalf the thanks to all those folks that do that. And that would, of course, include Deborah, that would include Deborah Manns, that would include Kalia, Anissa, and all those folks that do all this vital work for all these committees.
Francine.
How could I forget Francine? That's just a shame. Francine, who just really keeps us all on point. The other thing I wanted to say is that I want to thank Dr. Anderson. We had most board members were able to attend. It's very difficult attending these meetings. You usually will find a meeting where a board member is not in attendance. It's not because they don't care. It's probably because they're at some other meeting, and that's usually the case for all of us here. It's a difficult job because you're trying to represent the board in as many functions as you can, whether it's a baseball game or a committee meeting. And so please do not judge us too hard if you find out that one of us is missing for a meeting. That's why we operate as a body. We can come back and report what the others are doing. But I did want to thank the board members who were able to attend that meeting. I want to clearly thank Dr. Anderson. With respect to the renaming of Frederick Douglass, some of you, including the community, may wonder what's the next step. Rather than have it on today's agenda, one of the things, I think overwhelmingly the comments during the meeting, the public hearing, were very positive. But there were some parents there, I think some parent leaders for number 12, who felt like maybe they needed to know more and learn more and have a chance to articulate more. So they have a school-based planning meeting in about another week or two. And I said to them, I committed them that we would take that proposal, present it to them, and have further conversation. So my guess is, colleagues, we'll be talking about this during our June meeting. And ultimately, as you all know, the decision is the Board of Education whether to change their name or not. There was a person or two that had some concerns, but again, I think overwhelmingly the comments were in favor of that. And I should note, the family of the descendants of Frederick Douglass really supported this. And I think there were some good ideas about names. I mean, I consumed too much time, but I got to tell you, I'm kind of partial to, it was just me, Anna Murray Douglass Academic Center or
Anna Murray Douglass Academy.
That idea was thrown around because there wouldn't be any confusion. And if you all knew, half of what I've learned most recently about Anna Murray Douglass.
Who was
the
first wife. She?
She was his first wife. And she was an abolitionist. And she was an outspoken, in addition to being a mother of 6 children, I think, just an incredible person. But again, the decisions of boards, those are just my opinions, and we'll talk about it more at length during our June meeting. The other thing I wanted to note is that the finish line reports, I've just whispered to Barbara, and I had mentioned this to Sean, they've been in operation for about 3 years, and they've been tweaked over the years, and quite honestly, I think we may just now begin to see the fruition, the benefits of having that kind of focus on those key performance indicators. And much to the chagrin of some, I said to Shanae today, and I mentioned it to Sean, and I whispered something to Barbara indirectly about it. My thought is to add another performance indicator. We need to get out ahead of this. We're frequently finding we're waiting until the last minute to figure out whether our kids are graduating. I know the principals are not, but from the board's perspective, and as I looked at the finish line indicators, I noticed what was missing is an indicator that got ahead of the game. So this may be a logistical nightmare or a data nightmare, but I thought we should add, starting next year, September, principals should be required to present to the Board of Education what percentage of their children or their students have achieved by 10th grade 1 Regents exam and 6 credits. Because if we start focusing, because if you're familiar with the finish line report, we talk about graduation rates, we talk about ELA scores, math scores, suspension rates, and so forth. Progress that is made on ELA and math scores as well. But we really got to get ahead of this, because what's going to happen to my colleagues and to some of you out there, parents are going to start calling us up at the last minute and say, hey, my baby's not going to graduate, he's missing this and that. We've got to get parents and our leaders to know that we are not just looking at June and August, but we're looking at June and August 3 years before it happens. So I'm saying to Barbara, and I know Sean's probably somewhere around here, that come September, this Board of Education is going to start asking, what are you doing with your children? Do you have an awareness, by face and name, of where your freshmen and your sophomores are? Because if you can't tell us what percentage of your kids are on the right path to graduating, that tells us something about what's going to happen 3 years later. All right. Finally, I'll be doing a lot of traveling, Boston, Anchorage, Atlanta. I've always been very open and honest, and most board members are. My mother is struggling with her health, and so to my colleagues, I will tell you, my attendance at different functions, committee meetings may be a bit spotty. You're only given one mom. Some of us are blessed to get 2 and 3, but this is my biological mom, and I'm going to be spending more time in Atlanta, Georgia with her. But I'm committed to this work, but I feel very blessed that we have the summer so we all of us can sort of take a breather, attend to those things that maybe we have been neglecting because we've been working on the budget and trying to get things straight at different schools. So to all of you, as we go into the summer, personal note, a personal privilege, please take the time to take care of yourselves and your family, because most of us are only given one of them, and I would encourage you to do that. All right, so now we've got to move on to the more serious business side of this meeting, and that would be the consideration of resolutions. Can I get a motion to discuss resolutions 828 through 840?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Vice President Powell, seconded by Commissioner Funches. Any questions or comments regarding the EPO resolutions? There being no questions or comments, all those in favor of resolutions 828 to 840 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
840, no.
Madam Clerk, you record that. We're going to take 841 into executive session. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that, but for those who don't know, if it comes to a personnel matter, we're generally obligated by law to discuss those privately, and we'll do that when someone makes a motion for executive session at the end of this meeting. So can I get a motion to discuss resolutions 842 to 863?
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Funches.
Let me just point
Yes, ma'am.
So the ones that are going into executive session, are they all of the HCI resolutions?
No.
Well, can I move that we have, I think it's resolution 845?
I requested that to Commissioner Elliott. I requested 845, 846, and 863 to go into executive session.
All right, so I did not know that, so let's
That's what my post-it note, Van, that's what I was trying to pass to you, the note to say, Van, can you?
I am so sorry. I didn't look at the posted note. I'm sorry. All right, so repeat those again.
I'm requesting page 10, 845, and 846 to go into executive session. Page 18, resolution 863 to go into executive session.
Commissioner Elliott, did you have something different, or do you?
No,
have
that was the 845.
845?
Thank you.
Okay, so I need I don't need a motion.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is I don't need a motion to amend anything. What I need is a motion to discuss resolutions 842 to 863 with the exception of resolutions 845 and 846 and 863. And 840. Well, I already did that. I already said we weren't going to discuss 841. We're on resolutions that are bunched together, 842 to 863. So I need a motion to discuss those, and again, that's with the exclusion of 845, 846, and 863.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallmark. Seconded by?
Second.
Commissioner Funches. Any questions or comments regarding resolutions 842 to 863 with the exclusion of 845, 846, and 863? All those in favor of resolutions 842 to 863 with the exception of 845, 846, and 863, say aye.
Aye.
No to 849?
Madam Clerk, you record that? All right. Can I get a motion to discuss resolutions 864 to 871?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice President Elliott. Powell. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hallmark. Any questions or comments regarding those resolutions? There being no questions or comments regarding additional pay resolutions, 864 to 871, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition?
Yeah, no to all.
Got that, Madam Clerk? All right. I need a motion to discuss resolutions 872 to 874, procurement and supply.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Powell, seconded by Commissioner Funches. Any questions or comments regarding those procurement and supply resolutions?
Yeah, but Mike is not here, and he asked me if I had any questions about them before he left, but I did not get a chance to review them before he left, but I will follow up with him when he returns, but in the meantime, I've got a couple of no votes.
All right, so let's take that vote if there are no further questions or comments. All those in favor of resolutions 872 to 874 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Yeah, 872, 873.
Got that, Madam Clerk? I need a motion to discuss educational facilities resolutions 875 through 889.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Funches, seconded by, was that you?
That was Liz.
Oh, I thought, I know I heard a voice to my left. It's been moved by Commissioner Hallmark, seconded by Commissioner Funches. Any questions or comments regarding those resolutions?
Yeah, I think there, let me just.
Take your time.
Just say that all of these were reviewed by the Finance Committee and are recommended.
Yeah, my concern with both of these has to do with the cost that went up from the previous year on both of them. So my vote is no. I don't have a question on it, but my vote is no.
On a particular resolution?
885 and 886.
Okay, all right, so let's take that vote. All those in favor of resolutions 875 through 889, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
I'm going to vote no with Cynthia Elliott on those two as well.
Okay.
Commissioner
Which ones were they, Commissioner Elliott?
They're 872 and 873, but the Joint Construction Board has to do with bonding, am I correct? In that I couldn't read that as well. Those resolutions has to do with bonding?
Resolution 888 is the resolution authorizing the, to go out for bonding for future FMP project.
All right. Okay.
So just so there's clarity, it's 872 and 873 that you're voting against, is that right, Commissioner Elliott? And Commissioner Funches, Commissioner LeBron?
Why are you always calling me and Melanie together? I don't know.
He calls anybody under
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You got it.
Are you right-handed?
Any voice he hears from this side.
Point of order, Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
The 872, 873, that was under procurement.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but the.
Oh, I see.
886.
So my no is for 885 and 886.
885 and 886.
Where the increases went up.
We haven't voted
Yes.
yet, yeah. We haven't.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to be clear about something. You want to correct the record so that you're voting no to 872?
Oh, no,
No.
I understand.
Okay, all right. So now we're talking about 875 through 889. You're voting no to 885 and 886. Okay, all right. You got that, Madam Clerk? And Commissioner LeBron,
Yes.
you got it right this time.
Yeah, you got it right.
You're voting no to those as well?
Yes.
All right, 885 and 886. So those resolutions pass. I need a motion to discuss resolution 890 through 903.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Hallmark, seconded by, come on, help me out.
Okay.
Keep it to the
Second.
left.
Is there a
Commissioner
reason you
Funches?
stopped at 903 and not 904 as well?
Oh, I'm just looking at the agenda.
Oh, it's, 904 isn't on the agenda page, but it is in our packet.
Yeah.
I apologize, that resolution was submitted this afternoon.
Oh, okay, all right.
I will move
Oh, yes.
resolutions
Thank you.
890 through 904.
Thank you very much, Vice President.
That does include
Powell.
adoption of a policy, so.
Is there a second to that motion? That's 890 through 904.
Seconds.
Then seconded by Commissioner Funches.
No, it wasn't.
What's that?
No, nothing. I'm messing with you
See,
now.
now, so wait a second. This is rough enough. Y'all really messing with me. I got a second.
Yes.
Any further questions or comments regarding those resolutions?
Comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just 903, there's a gift. I want to give thanks to Third Presbyterian
thank you.
Church, who has donated $1,300 to purchase food and supplies for East EPO Food Pantry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have
Commissioner
some.
Shepherd? I'm sorry.
So for Resolution 891, I was wondering if the superintendent or someone from your team can give us more information on the services that are going to be provided.
Also, this person is culturally competent.
Which resolution was it?
891.
Under other. Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to explain that contract. That's one of my contracts for the Early Childhood Department. And we had a smaller contract with this doctor earlier this year. He formerly worked for the Kirsch Center. And the doctor is able, he's like a behaviorist psychologist. He is able to go in and observe students, perform evaluations, and actually diagnose. And the reason that we decided to contract with him is because right now it takes a year to get an appointment at the Kirsch Center. There are so many people going there now, as far as from like Watertown, New York, that they are so busy you can't get in. It takes a whole year. So if a child starts pre-K 4, they can't get an appointment before they go to kindergarten. This is only for about 75 students, and we have 3,200 students in our district in pre-K. So this is for that very select small group that may be trying to get into Kirsch to see if a child is autistic or has another very significant concern of that type that would need a diagnosis. So this is an alternate route that we've developed with this person who's highly qualified to be able to do this work. If children don't get a diagnosis of autism, and that's his specialty, before they go to kindergarten, they can't qualify to go into an autism program in kindergarten. So that delays them being able to get the kind of help that they need. And children with more severe autism, we're talking about in this case, if they don't get the services they need as soon as possible, their chance to be able to be successful is greatly diminished. The earlier you catch this and start giving the right kinds of intervention, the more successful you can be. That is primarily what we're using that contract for. There are some other significant mental health issues that we sometimes see in young children of this age, but they are rarer, where children may be self-injurious or other things, and that's another area where we would use this doctor for. So he's well-known and well-respected in his field. I can't tell you what his culturally responsive take is. I only know him as a professional, so I've never had that kind of conversation, but I see him being respectful with all the people he deals with. So.
Sorry.
That's all I can tell you really about that, unless there's some specific.
Well, the issue becomes if they may be misplaced, or misdiagnosed based on culture.
Right.
So I would ask that if you can, Madam Superintendent, if I can, if you can find out, you know, because that's huge in our
yes,
community.
and these children present with such significant needs that, like, we have developed a whole intervention for social emotional in the pre-K program. We've been training the staff for 2 years now on the pyramid model. That's a model for preschool that the state has put out for social emotional intervention. It has a first level, which is good social emotional teaching and curriculum at the very first level for all students. And then children that are having behavioral challenges or difficulties of some sort, maybe difficulty interacting with others, or it could be anything. It could even be kids who are withdrawn. We do different types of interventions for them right in the classroom as level 2. And we revisit that plan. But if we're not successful there, and these are really serious concerns, then we get up to level 3, and that's where Dr. Harrison and those types of things
Are you familiar
come
with the doll test?
Yes. I am not familiar.
Go YouTube the doll test.
Okay.
All right? And look, what that is it's about black children, white children, identifying dolls as either because they're white, they're good, or black. So
I did see that.
Yeah, so it's important that I bring that up because, you know, there's this cultural bias even in the age that that the children that you in the program that you lead. And so it's important that we be sensitive to that.
I do, and I will investigate him further, but I can tell you in everything I've seen him do, he's always been respectful to anybody I've seen him interact with. So I will take that.
Yeah, it just needs a little bit more when we're talking about children of color.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So sorry. So for me, I think it's good that we're being proactive this way. But I would like to know more about how we got to the number of 75 and what has prompted us to even go this route. Like, has there been an influx of parents or families that may need more support? I mean, how are the students going to be referred to him? Since we have 3,000 and we're only contracting for about 75. I just need more information on if this amount of money is going to be.
Well, this year, he saw only about, I would say about 25 students, but we had many more that would have probably benefited from this. The parent always has to give their permission. The parent gives consent for this. This is not special education. It's not a special education referral. This is a general education intervention that we use. But it's only when we see the most, severe behavior, maybe a student who's saying things about wanting to hurt themselves, or, we do see that sometimes. It's very sad, or does try to hurt themselves sometimes. And then we really have to do something different in those cases.
So of that 2025, do you know how many were actually diagnosed with something?
Yeah, there were, I would say the majority, about 2/3, and they weren't all autism. We had a child recently that had another diagnosis of more significant developmental delay. But mostly this has been focused on autism. And we have seen an increase in the number of students with autism, a significant increase. I've been watching it over the years. I remember probably 6, 7 years ago, it was amazing, to have 15 students in a year was a big thing. Of course, our population in pre-K was much smaller back then, about half the size of what it is now. And then the following year, it doubled. We had 30. And it's been growing like that. The problem that we've been experiencing is they can't get in to get these evaluations. That's why I went to the doctor.
What I believe is that there's a confluence of events happening here. One, that more parents are being made aware of what the signs and symptoms are of autism, and we're getting kids identified earlier with the backup at Kirsch. Because we know that we've got, and back when my son was diagnosed, it wasn't like it is now. So you could get into Kirsch in like 2 months. But my thing is, so when you have more parents who know what to look for, and you have more kids entering school earlier, more parents know what to look for, and you have a backup at Kirsch, that is, I think, is part of what you're seeing. But also the fact that psychiatrists and psychologists, people who can do this level of work, they are at a high premium nationally. There's not that many of them. So again, I applaud you for trying to seek this out, but I also understand what, like my fellow Commissioner Elliott, but I understand that we do need to have culturally competent psychiatrists, psychologists. I also understand that that we do not have enough to, this is in a service-rich community that Rochester is, this is one of the areas right now where we are not service-rich, where we are lacking enough capacity to really meet the need.
I have to say I felt very fortunate to have found this doctor. It was very hard to find someone with those skills and expertise. The other thing that you should probably know about is that we are screening a much larger number of children we've ever screened before. And as a result, we've had a huge influx of referrals. Some of them are warranted, and some of them are things that parents, ask about. My child doesn't sleep at night, or, other issues that aren't really special education types of things. But we do have a group in the community screening children that are not in our pre-K program called the GROW Initiative. Yes. So we have such an increase of children being screened right now this year, more than ever, that I think that's also
also adding to it, because we have so many early childhood initiatives screening more kids. Yes. Once the kids get screened, something pops in the screen, we have to do the next thing, but there's no capacity for that. They didn't think about that part.
Yeah. So that's really what we're facing. And sometimes Dr. Harrison may do an eval and he may not find that there's anything. He may say, well, you should go to outside counseling, I recommend that. But most of the time it's been for the children that have been diagnosed with autism.
One last question, and I apologize. So is it possible for our students in kindergarten, to also have access to this individual for assessment? Because I know of a student right now in kindergarten I won't say what school, but this teacher has been asking for an evaluation for this particular student who has not mastered saying his name, writing his name the whole school year, and was told that the district couldn't intervene and step up and help him until next year when he's in first grade. So he's essentially lost a year already of services that he should have been getting.
Because I'm paying for the contract with the pre-kindergarten grant funds, general ed funds, because this is a general ed initiative, I can't use it for other grade levels. I can only use it for the pre-K program.
Okay.
Because of the funds that are being used can only be used for children that are preschoolers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Thank you.
Okay. There being no further questions, we'll take a vote on resolutions 890 through 904. All those in favor of resolutions 890 to 904 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
I had a question, but I'll just ask it another time. 899, I'll say no to. I have another question, but I'll wait on this.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Elliott. There is no unfinished business from previous meeting. There is new business, the proposed revision of school district records policy 1120. That's an information item. Proposed revision of security breach and notification policy number 1300. It's an information item. And then, of course, there's a proposed revision of smoking on school premises. Did you want to elaborate any more on any of those?
No.
Okay.
I covered it in the policy report.
Policy report. Okay. All right. There are no other speakers on the agenda item. We covered that earlier. Announcement of our next business meeting is June 28th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. As I make, can I get a motion from one of my colleagues to go into executive session? Wait. You don't even know what I'm to buy Van White, a Bill Gray's hamburger, and fries. See, you don't even know. So I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and employment matters related to particular persons, and that motion would also have us go into executive session to discuss numerous suspension appeals of several RCSD students. Somebody want to make that motion now?
Motion.
Commissioner Elliott,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner
Sanchez.
LeBron. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, we will adjourn from our meeting downstairs, but we will come back out in public. If Todd is listening, I hope he picked up on this cue. I love this song by, I don't know if any of you have seen that movie, The Greatest, I think, with Hugh Jackman.
The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman. There's a song, it's called This Is Us.
Yes.
It's a very powerful song and might have some applicability to what we're doing in terms of recognizing the needs of our special needs students. I don't know if you've ever heard the words of it. Good night, everybody.